Discussion on verses 1 to 54 of 54. This chapter opens with the praise of Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 1.
All praise is due to Allah.
The word praise here is expressed in the form of a noun rather than a verb. This grammatical choice indicates permanence, meaning that all praise belongs to Allah, the Exalted, for eternity, without beginning or end. In addition, the use of a noun removes the need for a doer of the action, which a verb requires. This signifies that even if none of the creation were to praise Allah, the Exalted, all praise would still belong to Him. The praise and worship of creation has no bearing on His infinite and divine status. This truth is reinforced in a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 6572, which makes clear that the majesty of Allah, the Exalted, is independent of human recognition. Chapter 29 Al-Ankabut, verse 6.
And whoever strives only strives for the benefit of himself. Indeed, Allah is free from need of the worlds.
This verse demonstrates that all acts of worship and striving benefit only the individual, while Allah, the Exalted, remains entirely free of need. He is not elevated by human praise, nor diminished by human neglect. All of this indicates the importance of avoiding pride when offering praise and worship to Allah, the Exalted. A person must understand that their praise of Allah, the Exalted, benefits only themselves, for He has no need of it. Worship is therefore not a favor to Allah, the Exalted, but a mercy granted to mankind, enabling them to achieve balance, tranquility, and success in both worlds. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 1.
All praise is due to Allah.
In addition, this verse reminds a person that anything praiseworthy found within themselves or within the rest of creation has been granted by none other than Allah, the Exalted. Therefore, all praise ultimately returns to Him and solely belongs to Him. Recognizing this truth protects a person from the deadly sin of pride, an atom's worth of which is enough to condemn one to hell. This warning has been clearly stated in a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 265. Finally, pride is also avoided when a person understands that the inspiration, knowledge, strength, and opportunity to praise Allah, the Exalted, are all granted by Him. Even the ability to worship and glorify Him is a blessing from His mercy, not an achievement of human effort alone. This realization humbles the heart, reminding every person that they are entirely dependent upon Allah, the Exalted, for every virtue they possess and every act of obedience they perform. In this way, pride is replaced with gratitude, and worship becomes a means of drawing closer to Him rather than a cause for arrogance. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 1.
All praise is due to Allah.
All four reasons for praise are found within Allah, the Exalted, innately, and anyone who possesses any of them only does so because Allah, the Exalted, has granted it to them. Therefore, He alone is truly worthy of praise. The first reason is that the praised one is full of perfection in respect to characteristics and attributes while being free from any shortcomings. Allah, the Exalted, embodies absolute perfection in His essence, attributes, and actions, without flaw or deficiency. The second reason is that the praised one has done a favor to another, and the praise they receive is therefore an expression of gratitude. Allah, the Exalted, is the source of every blessing, whether worldly or spiritual, and all gratitude ultimately belongs to Him. The third reason is that the one who praises hopes for a favor from the one they praise. Allah, the Exalted, alone possesses the power to grant every favor, whether guidance, provision, or forgiveness, and thus all supplication and praise must be directed to Him. The fourth reason is that the praised one possesses qualities which demand praise, such as might, majesty, and power. Allah, the Exalted, is the Lord of all creation, the all-powerful, the Almighty, whose very attributes necessitate praise from every tongue and heart. Taken together, these four reasons demonstrate that every form of praise, whether for perfection, gratitude, hope, or majesty, belongs solely to Allah, the Exalted. He is the ultimate source of all goodness, the possessor of all perfection, and the one whose qualities demand eternal praise. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 1.
All praise is due to Allah.
A person who does a favor for others is almost always seeking some form of return, whether this return is divine reward, praise from people, repayment of a favor, or protection from being labeled a miser. The one who seeks a return for the things they do is therefore not a true benefactor, and does not genuinely deserve praise, as their intention is not free from desiring compensation for their actions. By contrast, Allah, the Exalted, does not grant the creation countless and continuous blessings for any of these reasons. He does not bestow His favors in pursuit of reward, recognition, or protection from criticism. Rather, He grants blessings purely out of His immense mercy and compassion for His creation. Every breath, every provision, every opportunity, and every form of guidance is given without expectation of return, for Allah, the Exalted, is entirely free of need. This reality demonstrates that Allah, the Exalted, gains no benefit in granting blessings to creation. His generosity is absolute, His mercy is unmatched, and His favors are continuous. For this reason, He alone is truly worthy of praise. All human benefactors are limited by self-interest, but Allah, the Exalted, is the perfect benefactor, whose giving is unconditional and eternal. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 1.
All praise is due to Allah.
In addition, this verse indicates that the very first step to adopting real belief in Allah, the Exalted, is showing gratitude to Him for the countless and continuous blessings He grants to every person. Chapter 14 Ibrahim, verse 34.
And if you should count the favor of Allah, you could not enumerate them. Indeed, mankind is generally most unjust and ungrateful.
This verse highlights both the immeasurable nature of divine blessings and the tendency of mankind to overlook them. The Holy Quran frequently places belief in Allah, the Exalted, side by side with gratitude to Him, indicating that true belief cannot be attained until gratitude is practically demonstrated. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 152.
So remember me, I will remember you. And be grateful to me, and do not deny me.
True gratitude is not a mere verbal expression, but a comprehensive attitude that permeates intention, speech, and action. It begins with adopting a sincere intention to please Allah, the Exalted, in every circumstance. It continues with speech that is consistently good, or silence when goodness cannot be spoken. Finally, it culminates in the correct use of every blessing granted, whether wealth, health, knowledge, or influence, in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, according to the teachings of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. These conditions of gratitude go far beyond the few obligatory duties of Islam. They encompass every aspect of life, ensuring that blessings are not misused but directed towards obedience and service. When gratitude is practiced in this holistic manner, Allah, the Exalted, increases blessings as He has promised and grants peace of mind in both worlds. This peace is achieved through a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within one's life. Gratitude, therefore, is not only the foundation of belief, but also the key to harmony, tranquility, and readiness for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Chapter 14 Ibrahim, verse 7.
And remember when your Lord proclaimed, "If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor."
As the entire creation, except for mankind, has fully submitted to the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, through praising Him, they remain in a state of balance and harmony. Chapter 17 Al-Isra, verse 44.
The seven heavens and the earth and whatever is in them exalt Him. And there is not a thing except that it exalts Allah by His praise, but you do not understand their way of exalting.
And chapter 34 Saba, verse 1.
All praise is due to Allah, to whom belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth.
This verse reveals that every aspect of creation, from the vast heavens to the smallest atom, glorifies Allah, the Exalted, in its own manner. The balance and harmony of the universe are clear signs of this submission. One observes the precise rising and setting of the sun, the phases of the moon, and the countless planets that remain fixed in their orbits. The stability of the seasons, the rhythm of tides, and the delicate ecosystems of the earth all testify to the obedience of creation. This harmony is achieved only because all things submit to the will of Allah, the Exalted. By contrast, mankind is unique in possessing free will, and therefore often fails to submit to Allah, the Exalted, unlike the rest of creation. This disobedience disrupts the harmony that is otherwise universal. When a person chooses to ignore divine guidance, imbalance enters their life, manifesting as confusion, stress, and misplaced priorities. Therefore, if one desires to achieve the same harmony and balance observed in the universe within their own life, they must follow the example of creation by sincerely obeying Allah, the Exalted, at all times. This requires correctly using the blessings they have been granted, according to the teachings of the Holy Quran, and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. By doing so, they guarantee a harmonious mental and physical condition, appropriately positioning all aspects of their life while adequately preparing for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Consequently, this conduct leads to tranquility in both worlds. Just as the heavens and the earth remain in perfect order through submission, so too does the human heart and mind achieve peace when aligned with obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Even though all praise and gratitude belongs solely to Allah, the Exalted, this does not mean that gratitude should not be shown to people. In fact, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, advised in a hadith found in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 1954, that the one who does not show gratitude to people cannot be truly grateful to Allah, the Exalted. This is because Allah, the Exalted, often delivers His blessings through the means of creation, such as parents, teachers, friends, or even strangers who assist in times of need. To acknowledge these means is to acknowledge the source of goodness itself, Allah, the Exalted. Therefore, gratitude must be shown to people according to their means, for any help or aid they provide, even if it is something as simple as a supplication on one's behalf. This principle is reinforced in a hadith found in Imam Bukhari's Adab al-Mufrad, number 216, which emphasizes that even small acts of kindness deserve recognition and thanks. By showing gratitude to the creation, one is in reality showing gratitude to Allah, the Exalted, who enabled that goodness to reach them. This practice of gratitude is not merely a social courtesy, but a spiritual duty. It strengthens bonds between people, encourages further acts of kindness, and cultivates humility by reminding one that blessings are never self-earned but divinely granted. More importantly, it leads to an increase in blessings, as Allah the Exalted has promised, and brings peace of mind in both worlds. Gratitude nurtures a balanced mental and physical state, allowing a person to correctly place everything and everyone within their life, while preparing adequately for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Chapter 14, Ibrahim, verse 7.
And remember when your Lord proclaimed, "If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor."
Ultimately, as the entire creation belongs to and is under the complete control and jurisdiction of Allah, the Exalted, a person has no choice but to comply with His rules, even if they do not acknowledge that obedience belongs to Him. Chapter 34, Saba, verse 1.
All praise is due to Allah, to whom belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is in the earth.
This verse establishes divine ownership and sovereignty over all existence. Just as a person will face trouble if they fail to comply with the rules set by the government in charge of a particular country, so too will they face trouble in both worlds if they fail to comply with the rules of the owner of the universe. A person may be able to leave a country if they are not pleased with its rules, but they will never be able to escape to a place where the rules and jurisdiction of Allah, the Exalted, do not apply. A person may be able to change the rules of their society, but they will never be able to change the rules of Allah, the Exalted. In addition, just as a person who owns a house decides the rules of the house, even if other people object to these rules, similarly, the universe belongs to Allah the Exalted, and therefore He alone decides the rules of this universe, whether people like these rules or not. This analogy makes clear that divine ownership naturally entails divine authority, and compliance is not optional, but necessary for one's own well-being. Therefore, one must comply with these rules for their own sake. The one who understands this fact will strive to obey Allah, the Exalted, by using the blessings they have been granted in ways pleasing to Him, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. A person can either strive to learn the wisdoms behind the commands and prohibitions of Allah, the Exalted, so that they understand how these benefit them and the wider society, leading to peace of mind and body in both worlds, or they can worship their desires and reject the teachings of Islam. But the one who fails to comply with divine rules should prepare themselves to face the consequences of their choice in both worlds. No objections, protests, or complaints will save them, for the rules of Allah, the Exalted, are absolute and unchanging. The wise individual is therefore the one who recognizes divine ownership, submits to divine authority, and lives in obedience, knowing that this submission leads to peace, justice, and success in this life and the hereafter, through obtaining a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. Whether one acknowledges that obedience belongs to Allah, the Exalted, in this world or not, the reality is that everyone will acknowledge it in the hereafter when the veil is lifted and the truth becomes clear to all. At that time, it will be undeniable that praise and obedience always belong solely to Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 1.
And to him belongs all praise in the hereafter.
This verse highlights that divine praise is eternal and inevitable. In the hereafter, no one will be able to deny it, for the illusions of worldly life will be removed and the truth will be manifest. Those who practically responded to his praise in this world, through obedience, by correctly using the blessings he granted them in accordance with Islamic teachings, will themselves be praised by Allah, the Exalted, on Judgment Day. Their obedience will be recognized, their sacrifices rewarded, and their steadfastness honored. On the other hand, those who ignored his praise and thus his obedience in this world will face criticism and regret. Their acknowledgement of his praise on Judgment Day will not be accepted, for it will come too late. The opportunity to act upon that acknowledgement belongs to this world, where obedience is tested and sincerity is proven. In the hereafter, recognition without prior obedience will only expose negligence and hypocrisy. This teaching underscores the urgency of responding to divine praise now, while life remains. To delay obedience until the hereafter is to forfeit mercy and reward, leaving only regret and accountability. An aspect of truly praising Allah, the Exalted, is to acknowledge that every decree issued by him is rooted in perfect wisdom, even when that wisdom is hidden from human perception. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 1.
And he is the wise, the acquainted.
This recognition is essential for remaining steadfast in obedience during times of trial. When difficulties arise, a person must cultivate a mindset that sees beyond immediate hardship. They should remind themselves that the situation could have been far worse, and if the challenge is worldly, they should be grateful that their faith has remained intact. Instead of allowing sorrow to dominate, they should focus on the ultimate reward promised to those who endure with patience for the sake of Allah, the Exalted. When blessings are lost, reflection should turn to the countless favors that remain. A person who loses wealth should remember the gift of health, family, or guidance. One who suffers illness should recall the blessing of faith, intellect, or provision. In every trial, the believer is reminded that unseen wisdom lies behind the decree. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 216.
But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not.
This verse teaches that human judgment is limited, and what appears harmful may in reality be beneficial, while what seems desirable may ultimately bring harm. Trust in divine wisdom ensures that hardship is not viewed as meaningless suffering, but as a purposeful test that carries hidden blessings. In conclusion, adopting a positive outlook is a vital element in dealing with life's challenges. Gratitude, patience, and trust in Allah, the Exalted, transform trials into opportunities for growth and reward. By reflecting on these truths, a person secures tranquility in both worlds, achieving balance in mind and body, and correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. The wise perspective is not to see the cup as half empty, but to recognize it as half full, brimming with blessings that testify to the mercy and wisdom of Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 1.
And he is the wise, the acquainted.
A miraculous aspect of the Holy Quran is that it takes realities which are abstract and difficult for the human mind to fully grasp, such as divine knowledge, and presents them in a practical, visual manner that can be easily understood and reflected upon. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 2.
He knows what penetrates into the earth and what emerges from it, and what descends from the heaven and what ascends therein.
This verse demonstrates the vastness of divine knowledge by linking it to observable phenomena. It speaks of many things, such as seeds penetrating the soil, plants emerging from the earth, rain descending from the sky, and vapors ascending back into the atmosphere. These natural processes, which people witness daily, become vivid illustrations of the infinite awareness of Allah, the Exalted. In this way, the Holy Quran transforms abstract theology into tangible reminders, ensuring that divine knowledge is not a distant concept but a reality woven into the fabric of everyday life. One of the great benefits of this miraculous style is that it allows a person to remember Allah, the Exalted, even when they are not actively studying the Holy Quran. For example, when walking along a road and observing rainfall, they are reminded of this verse and of Allah's boundless knowledge. The rain becomes more than a natural occurrence. It becomes a sign of divine wisdom, a reminder that Allah, the Exalted, knows every intention, every word, and every action. This reflection should encourage constant self-correction, ensuring that one's motives, speech, and behavior remain aligned with obedience. The same principle applies to countless other aspects of creation. When a person sees crops sprouting from the soil, they are reminded that Allah, the Exalted, knows what emerges from the earth. When they observe the rising of smoke or vapor, they recall that Allah, the Exalted, knows what ascends. When they witness the descent of sunlight, snow, or even the fall of a leaf, they remember that Allah, the Exalted, knows what descends. Each of these ordinary events becomes a powerful reminder of accountability, urging a person to use their blessings correctly, as outlined in Islamic teachings. This constant awareness nurtures a balanced mental and physical state. It helps a person correctly place everything and everyone within their life, avoiding misplaced priorities, and ensuring that worldly blessings are used in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. Such conduct prepares them adequately for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Ultimately, this behavior leads to tranquility in both worlds. By transforming ordinary experiences into reminders of divine wisdom, the Holy Quran ensures that faith permeates daily life. A sunrise becomes a lesson in renewal, rainfall becomes a reminder of mercy, and the growth of plants becomes a sign of provision. In this way, the believer lives in continuous remembrance, finding peace in the knowledge that Allah, the Exalted, is fully aware of all things. Chapter 34, Saba, verse 2.
He knows what penetrates into the earth and what emerges from it, and what descends from the heaven and what ascends therein.
This verse, when contemplated with depth, unveils yet another miraculous dimension of the Holy Quran. It provides clear evidence that its words cannot originate from a human being. Human beings, regardless of their intelligence or creativity, tend to think in similar patterns. When a person seeks to describe the extent of their knowledge, they instinctively turn to familiar subjects, such as mathematics, commerce, science, or other worldly achievements. These are the areas that naturally occur to the human mind when attempting to demonstrate intellectual capacity. By contrast, this verse does not follow the human pattern of thought. Instead of highlighting worldly disciplines, it directs attention to realities that lie beyond ordinary human reflection. What penetrates into the earth, what emerges from it, what descends from the heavens, and what ascends therein. These examples encompass the hidden movements of creation, the unseen processes of the universe, and the mysteries of existence that extend far beyond human perception. The choice of such imagery is striking, for it reflects a perspective that transcends human limitation. This distinction is crucial. If a person were to claim authorship of divine speech, they would naturally highlight knowledge that impresses others, statistics, discoveries, or intellectual theories. Yet the Holy Quran speaks of knowledge in a manner no human would instinctively choose. It draws attention to natural processes that surround every person daily, processes that are simple to observe, yet profound in meaning. This style ensures that divine knowledge is not abstract or inaccessible, but practical, relatable, and simultaneously a proof that the source of the speech is not human. Furthermore, the verse demonstrates the comprehensiveness of divine knowledge. It encompasses what is hidden beneath the soil, what emerges visibly from it, what descends from the heavens such as rain or revelation, and what ascends back such as vapors or prayers. This breadth of description shows that Allah, the Exalted, is aware of both the seen and unseen, the physical and spiritual, the earthly and the heavenly. Such a holistic portrayal of knowledge is beyond human capacity, for no person can claim awareness of all realms simultaneously. The miraculous nature of this verse lies not only in its content, but also in its style. It transforms abstract theology into vivid imagery, making divine knowledge tangible and memorable. It also serves as a constant reminder that Allah, the Exalted, is fully aware of every intention, word, and deed. This reminder encourages a person to correct their behavior, use their blessings in obedience, and prepare for accountability. In conclusion, the very choice of words in this verse is itself a proof of divine origin. It speaks in a way that no human would. It encompasses realities beyond human perception, and it connects abstract truths to daily experiences. This unique style is a hallmark of revelation, demonstrating that the Holy Quran is not the product of human thought, but the speech of Allah, the Exalted. After highlighting the infinite knowledge of Allah, the Exalted, which penetrates even the deepest and most hidden realities, including a person's intentions, speech, and actions, the verse concludes by reminding mankind of His mercy and forgiveness. Allah, the Exalted, does not demand perfection from people, for perfection is beyond human capacity. Rather, He expects them to sincerely strive in obeying Him by correctly using the blessings He has granted, as outlined in Islamic teachings, and to avoid persisting in sins whenever they occur. When a person adopts this attitude of striving, repentance, and sincerity, they are assured of finding mercy and forgiveness from Allah, the Exalted, in both worlds. In this life, His mercy manifests as tranquility, balance, and the correct placement of everything and everyone within one's life. In the hereafter, His forgiveness secures safety from punishment and entry into eternal reward. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 2.
And He is the merciful, the forgiving.
This closing reminder teaches that divine knowledge is always coupled with divine mercy. Allah the Exalted is fully aware of every deed, yet He grants respite, accepts repentance, and forgives those who sincerely strive to obey Him. It is this balance of perfect knowledge and perfect mercy that ensures mankind is never left without hope, so long as they turn back to Him with humility and sincerity. Obeying Allah, the Exalted, and preparing for accountability on the Day of Judgment often conflicts with the worldly desires and aspirations of people. As a result, many reject or ignore the reality of Judgment Day, even while verbally claiming belief in it. In truth, this amounts to practical disbelief. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 3.
But those who disbelieve say, the hour will not come to us.
Denying resurrection is a strange claim when countless examples of resurrection occur daily, monthly, and yearly. Allah the Exalted revives barren land with rain, causing dead seeds to burst forth alive to sustain creation. Similarly, He will give life to the human being buried in the earth, just as He gives life to a seed. The changing of seasons also demonstrates resurrection. In winter, trees appear lifeless as their leaves die and fall, yet in spring and summer they return to full life. Resurrection occurs even within the body, as cells constantly die and are replaced. The sleep-wake cycle is another sign. Sleep is the sister of death, as the senses are cut off, yet Allah, the Exalted, returns the soul to the sleeper if they are destined to live on. Chapter 39 Az-Zumar, verse 42.
Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die He takes during their sleep. Then He keeps those for which He has decreed death, and releases the others for a specified term. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought.
The Day of Judgment must also occur, because balance is a fundamental law of creation. The earth is perfectly positioned at a balanced distance from the sun, the water cycle is finely tuned to sustain life, and the ground is created soft enough for seeds to penetrate, yet strong enough to support heavy structures. These examples reveal both a creator and balance. Yet one aspect of existence remains unbalanced: human actions. Oppressors often escape punishment in this world, while the oppressed endure hardship without receiving full recompense. Many Muslims who sincerely obey Allah, the Exalted, face difficulties and receive only a portion of reward, while those who disobey Him enjoy worldly luxuries. Just as balance governs the natural world, reward and punishment must also be balanced. Since this balance is not achieved in this world, it must occur in another time, the Day of Judgment. Allah, the Exalted, could have chosen to reward and punish fully in this world, but His wisdom dictates otherwise. He grants opportunities for repentance, allowing people to correct their behavior. He does not fully reward the believers here, because this world is not paradise. Moreover, belief in the unseen, such as the full reward awaiting in the hereafter, is a defining aspect of faith. Faith is special precisely because it requires belief in what cannot be perceived by the senses. Fear of punishment and hope for reward in the hereafter motivate abstinence from sin and perseverance in righteous deeds. For the day of recompense to begin, this material world must end, since reward and punishment can only be given once all actions have ceased. Thus, the end of the world is inevitable. Reflecting on these truths strengthens faith in the day of judgment and encourages preparation for it. This preparation involves using blessings correctly, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Such conduct brings peace of mind and success in both worlds, through achieving a balanced mental and physical state, and correctly placing everything and everyone within one's life. Chapter 45 Al-Jatiyah, verse 22.
For Allah created the heavens and the earth for a purpose, so that every soul may be paid back for what it has committed, and none will be wronged.
And chapter 34 Saba, verse 3.
Say, yes, by my Lord it will surely come to you.
Not only does Allah, the Exalted, possess the absolute power to resurrect and hold people accountable, a reality evident when one reflects upon the creation, but he also possesses complete knowledge of every intention, word, and deed. This knowledge is the other essential aspect required for accountability. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 3.
The knower of the unseen. Not absent from him is an atom's weight within the heavens or within the earth, or what is smaller than that or greater, except that it is in a clear register.
This verse emphasizes that nothing escapes his awareness. Whether it is the smallest particle hidden in the depths of the earth, or the greatest of deeds performed openly, all are recorded with precision. Human beings may conceal their motives or disguise their actions, but Allah the Exalted knows them fully. His perfect knowledge ensures that accountability is just, comprehensive, and beyond dispute. Therefore, those who support their verbal declaration of faith in Allah, the Exalted, with sincere actions, by correctly using the blessings He has granted them in accordance with Islamic teachings, will be blessed in both worlds. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 4.
That He may reward those who believe and do righteous deeds. Those will have forgiveness and noble provision.
This promise demonstrates the balance of divine justice. Belief must be accompanied by righteous deeds, and when it is, the result is mercy, forgiveness, and tranquility in both worlds. Such obedience leads to a balanced mental and physical state, ensuring that everything and everyone in one's life is placed correctly. It prepares the believer for accountability and secures peace of mind in this world, while guaranteeing eternal success in the hereafter. When a person chooses to live in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, and walks a path different from that of their peers, it often stirs discomfort in others. Those who have built their lives around personal desires rather than divine guidance may feel exposed in their choices, and this sense of inadequacy frequently manifests as criticism directed at those who remain steadfast, sometimes even from within their own families. The pressures of society intensify this struggle. Social media, fashion, and cultural trends promote ideals that conflict with Islamic values, presenting wealth, status, and indulgence as the measure of success. Because Islam calls for moderation, discipline, and accountability, its promotion is often seen as a barrier to worldly ambitions. Industries that thrive on excess naturally resist Islamic principles, and this resistance fuels the widespread anti-Islamic sentiments visible across many platforms. Those who strive to live by Islamic teachings, moderating their desires and enjoying blessings responsibly, are often met with hostility from those who indulge without restraint. Islam describes such unrestrained indulgence as animalistic, and those who live by it frequently attempt to dissuade others from embracing Islam or discourage people from practicing their faith. They lure others into a lifestyle of unchecked desire and often target visible aspects of Islam, such as the dress code for women, to undermine its appeal. Yet thoughtful observers recognize the weakness of these criticisms. For example, while opponents attack Islamic modesty, they remain silent about strict dress codes in professions such as law enforcement, healthcare, or the military. This selective criticism exposes the fragility of their arguments. Ultimately, it is Islam's principles of self-discipline and the dignified conduct of its adherents that provoke such attacks. In every situation, a person must remain firm in their obedience to Allah, the Exalted. This loyalty ensures blessings are used correctly, bringing serenity and shielding them from harmful influences, even if that protection is not immediately visible. Such obedience nurtures harmony in both mental and physical states, allows proper organization of life's priorities, and prepares one for accountability on the Day of Judgment. The result is tranquility in both worlds, guidance through ease and hardship, and the assurance of boundless reward. By contrast, those who ignore the commands of Allah, the Exalted, in pursuit of human approval inevitably lose inner peace. Their misuse of blessings leads to imbalance, turning family, friends, career, and wealth into sources of stress. Persisting in disobedience fosters misplaced blame, often directed at good people such as spouses, and cutting them out only worsens instability. This destructive cycle can spiral into depression, substance abuse, and even suicidal tendencies. Such outcomes are evident in the lives of many who misuse their blessings, including the rich and famous, who despite enjoying worldly luxuries remain deeply troubled. Their neglect of accountability in this world ensures that their punishment in the hereafter will be far more severe. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 5.
But those who strive against our verses seeking to cause failure, for them will be a painful punishment of foul nature.
To maintain a resolute mindset, it is essential to cultivate strong faith. Such faith serves as the anchor that keeps a person devoted to obeying Allah, the Exalted, in every circumstance, whether in times of ease or adversity. This steadfastness is not achieved passively, but through actively comprehending and implementing the clear signs and teachings found in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. These divine sources affirm that genuine obedience to Allah, the Exalted, brings tranquility in both this life and the hereafter. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 6.
And those who have been given knowledge see that what is revealed to you from your Lord is the truth, and it guides to the path of the Exalted in might, the praiseworthy.
In contrast, those who remain unaware of Islamic principles possess fragile faith, leaving them vulnerable to straying whenever their desires conflict with divine guidance. Their lack of knowledge clouds their understanding of a fundamental truth. Surrendering personal desires in favor of the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, is the key to attaining peace in both worlds. Without this realization, they risk chasing fleeting pleasures while neglecting the eternal serenity that comes from obedience. Therefore, it is vital for every person to strengthen their faith through the pursuit of Islamic knowledge and its practical application. Faith is not sustained by mere verbal declaration, but by living according to divine guidance. This involves correctly utilizing the blessings granted by Allah, the Exalted, in line with Islamic teachings. Such obedience fosters a balanced mental and physical state, enabling a person to prioritize all aspects of life, family, wealth, health, and responsibilities, without excess or neglect. In this way, strong faith becomes the foundation of a resolute mindset, guiding the individual to stability, serenity, and ultimate success in both worlds. A person can unknowingly assist those who oppose Islam when they blindly follow the majority opinion within their society. The majority is often influenced by elites whose sole aim is to pursue worldly desires and ambitions, which Islam firmly rejects. For this reason, one must avoid unthinking conformity, as majority behavior frequently leads to disobedience of Allah, the Exalted. Observing society at large ignoring Islamic teachings may create the illusion that the majority must be correct, prompting individuals to follow without reflection. Yet history repeatedly demonstrates that majority opinion is not always truth. The widespread belief that the earth was flat, later disproven by evidence, is a clear example of how the majority can be mistaken. It is therefore essential to refrain from acting like cattle by blindly conforming to popular opinion, as this often results in misguided choices in both worldly and spiritual matters. Chapter 6 Al-An'am, verse 116.
And if you obey most of those upon the earth, they will mislead you from the way of Allah. They follow not except assumption, and they are not but guessing.
Instead, individuals should employ the reasoning and intellect granted to them by Allah, the Exalted, to evaluate each circumstance based on knowledge and evidence. This enables them to make informed decisions, even when those decisions diverge from the prevailing opinions of the majority. Islam strongly criticizes blind imitation in religious matters for this very reason, and it encourages people to learn and act upon Islamic teachings with understanding. In doing so, they safeguard themselves from error, remain steadfast in obedience, and ensure that their choices lead to peace of mind and success in both worlds. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
And chapter 34 Saba, verse 6.
And those who have been given knowledge, see that what is revealed to you from your Lord is the truth.
No matter how advanced a society may become, and regardless of the knowledge it acquires across diverse fields, including the study of human psychology and physiology, it remains impossible for humanity to devise a code of conduct that is perfectly aligned with human nature and capable of addressing every circumstance, condition, and scenario encountered throughout life on Earth. Human beings continue to uncover new insights into existence, such as the functions at different regions of the brain. Yet even with these discoveries, their understanding remains partial and incomplete. The complexity of human life, with its countless variables and ever-changing circumstances, makes it fundamentally unattainable for people to establish a flawless system that ensures tranquility and justice at both the individual and societal levels. Every human-made system inevitably reflects limitations, biases, and gaps in knowledge, leaving it unable to provide comprehensive guidance for all situations. Only Allah, the Exalted, possesses the ability to accomplish this, for He is the creator of all things. His knowledge is infinite, encompassing the entirety of past, present, and future. Unlike human beings, whose understanding is confined to what they can observe and study, Allah, the Exalted, knows the hidden realities of existence and the unseen dimensions of life. He alone is rightly positioned to provide humanity with a code of conduct, a divine standard that clearly distinguishes good from evil, benefit from harm, and guides people toward peace of mind in a world otherwise filled with stress and uncertainty. This divine code is not subject to revision or error, for it originates from perfect knowledge and wisdom. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 6.
And those who have been given knowledge, see that what is revealed to you from your Lord is the truth, and it guides to the path of the Exalted in might, the praiseworthy.
History provides undeniable evidence that whenever this divine code of conduct was sincerely implemented in the lives of individuals, it led to the spread of tranquility, justice, and peace throughout society. Communities that embraced divine guidance flourished in fairness and harmony, as the principles of accountability, compassion, and discipline shaped their collective life. Conversely, societies that relied solely on human-devised systems often fell into corruption, inequality, and unrest, as their codes of conduct failed to address the deeper needs of human nature. This historical reality demonstrates that divine guidance is not only superior, but essential for the establishment of lasting justice and peace. Therefore, people must embrace the guidance bestowed upon them, recognizing it as the most beneficial for their well-being, even when certain aspects may conflict with their personal desires. Submission to divine instruction requires humility, acknowledging that human desires are often short-sighted and can lead to harm if left unchecked. A wise person conducts themselves like a patient who accepts and follows the counsel of a physician, understanding that the prescribed treatment, though it may involve unpleasant medicine or a strict regimen, is ultimately in their best interest. In the same way, obedience to Allah the Exalted ensures spiritual health, balance, and tranquility, even if it requires sacrifice or discipline. By adhering to the divine code of conduct, a person secures mental strength granted by Allah the Exalted, the Almighty. This strength is not merely a fleeting sense of confidence, but a profound resilience that sustains them through every difficulty they encounter. It equips them with patience in adversity, gratitude in ease, and clarity in confusion. This divine support ensures that no challenge overwhelms them, for their reliance is upon the one whose power and knowledge encompass all things. Such adherence also leads to a praiseworthy life, one immersed in peace of mind in both worlds. This tranquility arises from achieving a balanced mental and physical state, where desires are moderated, responsibilities are fulfilled, and blessings are used correctly. By following divine guidance, a person learns to place everything and everyone within their life in its proper position: family, wealth, health, and worldly pursuits, ensuring that none are misused or neglected. This correct ordering of priorities fosters harmony within the individual and justice within society. Chapter 34, Saba, verse 6.
And it guides to the path of the exalted in might, the praiseworthy.
The leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca, like those in every generation who fear losing their influence and authority, employed various methods to discourage others from accepting Islam. Their concern was not rooted in truth, but in the preservation of their leadership, wealth, and social standing. One of their most common tactics was ridicule. They sought to make the concept of resurrection and accountability appear absurd, exaggerating it to the point of mockery, so that it seemed unbelievable to the masses. Chapter 34, Saba, verse 7.
But those who disbelieve say, "Shall we direct you to a man who will inform you that when you have disintegrated in complete disintegration, you will indeed then absolutely be recreated in a new creation?"
This verse highlights a timeless pattern of rejection. When people encounter a truth that contradicts their desires, they often exaggerate it until it sounds ridiculous, thereby justifying their refusal to accept it. Their exaggeration is not a genuine intellectual objection, but a psychological defense mechanism to avoid responsibility. For example, when someone persists in mistreating relatives and is advised to show respect and good manners, they may dismiss the advice by claiming it demands perfection, behaving like an angel who never displays any negative behavior. Since human perfection is unattainable, they portray the advice as unrealistic, even though it was practical and achievable. In this way, exaggeration becomes a convenient excuse to continue wrongdoing. Such behavior prevents individuals from taking accountability for their actions, which inevitably leads to misguidance. Those who refuse responsibility fail to develop their character and instead misuse the blessings granted to them. This misuse results in both mental and physical disorder, causing them to misplace priorities and relationships in their lives. They remain unprepared for accountability on the day of judgment, and their negligence brings stress, hardship, and adversity in this world, regardless of any material wealth they may possess. Their rejection of responsibility ensures greater loss in the hereafter, where excuses and exaggerations will hold no weight before Allah, the Exalted. Moreover, failing to take responsibility hinders a person from fulfilling the rights of others. This neglect contributes to the spread of corruption and injustice within their community, as selfish desires override fairness and compassion. When individuals justify their misconduct through exaggeration, they not only harm themselves but also destabilize society. Families suffer from neglect, communities are weakened by injustice, and societies lose the balance necessary for peace and harmony. Thus, the rejection of divine truth through mockery and exaggeration is not merely a personal failing, but a source of widespread corruption. This pattern of exaggeration and ridicule is a warning for every generation. It teaches that when divine guidance is presented, one must guard against the temptation to dismiss it through false reasoning or mockery. Instead, individuals should embrace responsibility, correct their behavior, and use the blessings of Allah, the Exalted, in accordance with His teachings. Only then will they achieve tranquility in this world, and eternal success in the hereafter. Allah, the Exalted, censures the attitude of the leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca by exposing their hypocrisy. They recognized the truth of Islam, yet openly rejected it. Their denial was not born of ignorance, but a deliberate arrogance. They accused the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, of inventing lies about Allah or of being mad. Chapter 34, Saba, verse 8.
Has he invented about Allah a lie, or is there in him madness?
This accusation was baseless and contradictory. The non-Muslims of Mecca were masters of the Arabic language, and they knew the Holy Quran was not the speech of a created being. Its eloquence, depth, and unmatched style were beyond human capacity. They had lived alongside the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, for 40 years before his prophethood, observing his honesty, integrity, and wisdom. He was never known to lie or behave irrationally. Chapter 10, Yunus, verse 16.
For I had remained among you a lifetime before it. Then will you not reason?
Furthermore, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had no interaction with previous divine scriptures. This fact was acknowledged by both the people of the book and the non-Muslims of Mecca. He was unlettered and had not studied the altered or original teachings of earlier revelations. This reality further confirms the divine origin of the Holy Quran as Allah the Exalted. Chapter 29 Al-Ankabut, verse 48.
And you did not recite before it any scripture, nor did you inscribe one with your right hand. Then, i.e., otherwise the falsifiers would have had cause for doubt.
The opposition of the Meccan leaders was therefore not due to genuine doubt, but to their refusal to accept accountability. They feared that acknowledging the truth would force them to restrain their worldly desires and ambitions. Their rejection was rooted in arrogance and self-interest, not in lack of evidence. Allah, the Exalted, makes clear that those who follow in their footsteps, whether by denying the reality of accountability on Judgment Day or by ignoring it despite claiming belief, will inevitably persist in disobedience. They will misuse the blessings granted to them, leading to imbalance in both mental and physical states. Such individuals misplace priorities, relationships, and responsibilities, leaving themselves unprepared for the day of judgment. This negligence results in stress, hardship, and adversity in both worlds, even if they enjoy temporary worldly luxuries. Their denial of the hereafter, or practically preparing for it, ensures ultimate loss. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 8.
Rather, they who do not believe in the hereafter will be in the punishment, and are in extreme error and loss.
Thus, the rejection of truth by the leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca serves as a timeless warning. It demonstrates that denial often arises not from ignorance, but from an unwillingness to restrain desires and accept responsibility. Those who ignore accountability, even while claiming belief, will inevitably suffer imbalance, corruption, and loss in both worlds. By contrast, those who embrace divine guidance and prepare for accountability secure peace of mind, justice, and eternal success. Allah, the Exalted, calls upon humanity to reflect deeply on the countless signs embedded within creation that point to the reality of the Day of Judgment. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 9.
Then, do they not look at what is before them and what is behind them of the heaven and earth?
This verse is a direct invitation to observe the heavens above and the earth beneath, both of which are filled with evidence of divine power and renewal. The sky, with its cycles of day and night, the movement of the sun, moon, and stars, and the changing weather patterns, demonstrates constant transformation and renewal. The earth, with its mountains, rivers, and fertile plains, testifies to the Creator's ability to bring forth life from apparent barrenness. Denying resurrection in the face of such overwhelming signs is irrational, for the natural order itself is a continuous reminder of return, renewal, and accountability. Resurrection is vividly illustrated through the cycle of rain. Allah, the Exalted, sends rain to revive barren land, transforming dry soil into fertile ground that sustains crops, animals, and human life. A seed buried in the earth appears lifeless, yet by His command it bursts forth into life, producing shoots, leaves, and fruit. Just as the dead seed is revived, so too will the human body, buried in the earth, be brought back to life. This analogy is repeated throughout the Holy Quran, reminding people that the revival of the earth is a clear sign of the revival of mankind. The changing of the seasons further demonstrates resurrection. In winter, trees stand bare, stripped of leaves, appearing lifeless. Yet in spring, they renew with blossoms, fruit, and vitality. This cycle of death and rebirth is a visible testimony to the possibility of resurrection. Similarly, the migration of birds, the hibernation of animals, and the dormancy of plants all show how life can pause and then return with vigor. These natural rhythms are reminders that the one who revives creation season after season can and will revive humanity on the Day of Judgment. Resurrection is also evident within the human body itself. Cells continuously die and are replaced, maintaining life through constant renewal. Skin regenerates, blood cells are replenished, and damaged tissues heal, all by the command of Allah the Exalted. Even the daily cycle of sleep and wakefulness reflects resurrection. Sleep is described as the sister of death, for the sleeper loses awareness and control. Yet Allah, the Exalted, returns the soul to the person if they are destined to continue living, granting them life once again. This daily revival is a profound reminder of the greater resurrection to come. Chapter 39 Az-Zumar, verse 42.
Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those that do not die He takes during their sleep. Then He keeps those for which He has decreed death, and releases the others for a specified term. Indeed, in that are signs for a people who give thought.
Additional examples of resurrection can be seen in the wider creation. Caterpillars transform into butterflies, undergoing a complete change from apparent lifelessness within the cocoon to vibrant life. Volcanic soil, once barren after destruction, becomes fertile ground for new vegetation. Forests destroyed by fire regenerate with new growth. Even oceans display cycles of renewal, as tides rise and fall, and marine ecosystems replenish themselves after devastation. Each of these examples is a sign that life can emerge from apparent death, and that renewal is a constant feature of creation. These repeated signs demonstrate that resurrection is neither irrational nor far-fetched, but rather an inherent part of the natural order established by Allah, the Exalted. Just as He revives the earth, seeds, trees, bodies, and ecosystems, He will surely revive humanity on the Day of Judgment. Reflecting on these truths strengthens one's certainty in accountability, and encourages preparation for that day by living in obedience to Allah, the Exalted. This is achieved by correctly utilizing the blessings He has granted, as outlined in Islamic teachings. This way of living will ensure individuals obtain a balanced mental and physical state, and correctly place everything and everyone within their life, while adequately preparing for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. This behavior will therefore lead to peace of mind in both worlds. Allah, the Exalted, draws attention to the countless systems within creation that He has established and maintains for the benefit of humanity. These systems are not accidental or random occurrences, but carefully balanced arrangements designed to sustain life and ensure stability. The water cycle, for example, provides rain in measured amounts, reviving barren land and enabling crops to grow, while also replenishing rivers and lakes for human and animal use. The precise distance of the sun from the earth ensures that the planet is neither scorched by excessive heat, nor frozen by extreme cold, allowing life to flourish. The firmness of the ground enables cultivation, construction and habitation, providing both sustenance and shelter. These systems, along with countless others, such as the rotation of the earth, the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and the gravitational forces that hold everything in place, demonstrate divine wisdom and mercy. They remind people that their existence is dependent upon the balance Allah, the Exalted, has ordained. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 9.
Then, do they not look at what is before them and what is behind them of the heaven and earth?
Yet Allah, the Exalted, warns those who persist in disobedience that just as He maintains these systems for their benefit, He can also disrupt them at will. The same balance that sustains life can be overturned, resulting in catastrophic consequences. Mass floods can sweep away entire communities, earthquakes can destroy cities, hurricanes can devastate regions, and comets or fragments from the sky can cause widespread destruction. These events are reminders of His absolute power and authority, showing that human beings are not in control of creation, but are subject to the will of their Creator. Even the smallest disruption in these systems, such as a change in climate, a shift in tectonic plates, or an imbalance in the atmosphere, can bring immense suffering. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 9.
If we should will, we could cause the earth to swallow them, or could let fall upon them fragments from the sky.
The one who truly appreciates the complete control Allah, the Exalted, has over the universe will submit to Him in obedience. Such a person recognizes that there is no escape from His authority, whether in this world or in the next. Submission is not a burden but a path to peace, for it aligns the individual with the order and balance of creation. By acknowledging divine authority, a person understands that their life is not independent but interconnected with the systems Allah, the Exalted, sustains. This realization fosters humility, gratitude, and reverence, leading them to live responsibly and prepare for accountability. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 9.
Indeed, in that is a sign for every servant turning back to Allah.
This submission involves correctly using the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted, as outlined in Islamic teachings. Just as the countless creatures within the universe obey Him, and thereby achieve harmony and balance, so too will the person who obeys Him. Through obedience, they obtain a balanced mental and physical state, placing everything and everyone in their life in its proper position. Family, wealth, health, and responsibilities are all managed with wisdom and moderation, ensuring that no blessing is misused and no duty is neglected. In this way, obedience to Allah, the Exalted, ensures tranquility in this world, protects against the chaos of imbalance, and prepares the individual for accountability in the hereafter. Their life becomes a reflection of the harmony seen in creation, where every element fulfills its purpose under divine command. Allah, the Exalted, provides the example of a person who recognized the signs within the universe that point to His oneness and absolute authority. He understood that the heavens, the earth, and all that lies within them are not the product of chance but the deliberate creation of Allah, the Exalted. By reflecting on these signs, he realized that only Allah, the Exalted, is worthy of obedience, and he devoted himself to living in accordance with divine guidance. His recognition of these signs was not merely intellectual but practical, as he translated his understanding into gratitude by correctly using the blessings bestowed upon him. Gratitude, in its true sense, involves acknowledging the source of blessings and employing them in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. He did not misuse wealth, power, or knowledge for selfish desires, but directed them toward righteousness, justice, and service. His gratitude was expressed through intention, speech, and action, ensuring that every blessing was a means of drawing closer to Allah, the Exalted. Because gratitude leads to increase, Allah, the Exalted, rewarded him with unimaginable blessings, both material and spiritual. These blessings were not limited to worldly comforts, but extended to tranquility of heart, wisdom, and guidance, which are far greater than any material possession. Chapter 14, Ibrahim, verse 7.
If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor.
And chapter 34, Saba, verses 10 to 11.
And we certainly gave David from us bounty. We said, O mountains, repeat our praises with him, and the birds as well. And we made pliable for him iron, commanding him, make full coats of mail and calculate precisely the links.
The first point to emphasize is that even though the Holy Prophet Dawood, peace be upon him, was granted both prophethood and a worldly kingdom, he did not abandon personal effort in earning his provision. He continued to work with his own hands, crafting items from iron, and thereby demonstrated the dignity of labor. This is confirmed in a hadith found in Sahih Bukhari, number 2072, which declares that the best provision a person can utilize is that which is earned through their own effort. His example establishes a timeless principle: prophethood and authority did not exempt him from striving, and therefore no person should consider themselves above the responsibility of lawful work. It is important to clarify that trusting in Allah, the Exalted, must never be confused with laziness. Sadly, many people abandon lawful occupations, rely on social benefits, or spend their time idly in mosques while claiming that they are trusting Allah, the Exalted, to provide for them. This is not true reliance, but a misuse of religion to justify inactivity. True trust in Allah, the Exalted, is demonstrated by using the means He has provided, such as physical strength, skills, and opportunities, to earn lawful wealth, and then trusting that He will bless those efforts. To neglect these means is to render them useless, which contradicts the wisdom of Allah, the Exalted, who does not create anything without purpose. The true purpose of trusting in Allah, the Exalted, in matters of provision is to safeguard oneself from earning wealth through doubtful or unlawful means. A person must firmly believe that their provision, including wealth, was allocated to them over 50,000 years before the creation of the heavens and the earth, as confirmed in a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 6748. This divine allocation cannot be altered under any circumstances. The duty of a person is therefore to strive to obtain this provision through lawful means, following the tradition of the holy prophets, peace be upon them, who themselves worked and earned despite their elevated status. This principle is reinforced in the hadith found in Sahih Bukhari, number 2072, which highlights the nobility of earning through one's own effort. Using the means provided by Allah, the Exalted, is itself an aspect of trust in Him, for He created these means for the very purpose of sustaining life. To neglect them while claiming reliance upon Him is a contradiction. A person should not fall into laziness by depending on social benefits or others when they have the ability to earn lawful wealth through their own efforts. True reliance is to act responsibly, employ the means Allah the Exalted has granted, and then trust that provision will reach them as decreed. Finally, understanding and acting upon this hadith encourages independence and dignity. It teaches that one should not rely unnecessarily on others, whether the government, relatives, or society, for sustenance. Instead, they should use the means provided to them by Allah the Exalted in accordance with Islamic teachings, while fully believing that their allocated lawful provision will reach them. This ensures that their trust rests in Allah the Exalted alone, and not in human institutions or individuals. Such reliance fosters self-respect, strengthens faith, and aligns a person with the noble tradition of the Holy Prophets, peace be upon them, who combine trust in Allah the Exalted with effort and responsibility. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 11.
Commanding him, make full coats of mail and calculate precisely the links.
The next point to highlight is that Allah the Exalted commanded the Holy Prophet Dawood, peace be upon him, to exert full effort in his worldly trade, just as he expected obedience from him in religious matters. This demonstrates the comprehensive nature of divine guidance, which encompasses both spiritual and worldly responsibilities. The Holy Prophet Dawood, peace be upon him, was not permitted to neglect his worldly duties despite his elevated status as a prophet and king. Instead, he was instructed to engage in his trade with diligence, showing that every aspect of life is a trust from Allah the Exalted, and must be fulfilled with sincerity and effort. Islam, being a religion of balance, encourages people to pay attention and care to all the tasks they undertake, whether worldly or religious. Each responsibility is a trust that must be discharged to the best of one's ability. This balance ensures that a person does not become overly absorbed in worldly pursuits at the expense of their spiritual obligations, nor do they neglect worldly duties under the pretext of focusing solely on religion. The holistic approach of Islam teaches that both dimensions are interconnected, and fulfilling them harmoniously leads to a life of justice, peace, and tranquility. Practical examples of this principle can be seen in everyday life. An employee must strive their hardest to fulfill the responsibilities they have agreed upon with their employer, as neglecting these duties is a betrayal of trust. A citizen of a nation must strive to be law-abiding and upright, contributing positively to the welfare of society. A licensed driver must carefully follow the rules of driving at all times, ensuring safety for themselves and others. Each of these responsibilities, though worldly in nature, is a trust that must be honored, for they directly affect the well-being of individuals and communities. It contradicts the character of a believer to only fulfill their trusts in religious matters, such as performing the 5 daily obligatory prayers, while neglecting the other trusts they have been entrusted with, such as their job, family responsibilities, or civic duties. True obedience to Allah, the Exalted, requires consistency and integrity across all aspects of life. A person who prays diligently but neglects their work, or who fasts but disregards their obligations to others, fails to embody the balance that Islam demands. The believer is called to excellence in every sphere, ensuring that their conduct reflects sincerity, responsibility, and obedience to Allah, the Exalted, in both the sacred and the mundane. Islam, as revealed by Allah the Exalted, is a complete and comprehensive code of conduct that governs every aspect of human life. It does not separate worldly responsibilities from religious obligations, but instead unites them under the principle of obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 11.
Commanding him, make full coats of mail and calculate precisely the links and work all of you righteousness.
Here Allah, the Exalted, connects the act of craftsmanship, a worldly occupation, with righteousness, showing that even the most practical tasks are bound to His obedience. This demonstrates that Islam influences every circumstance a person faces, whether related to worship or worldly affairs, and that every action must be carried out in accordance with divine guidance. It is therefore misguided to assume that Allah, the Exalted, only cares about religious duties such as the 5 daily prayers while ignoring worldly responsibilities. In reality, he will hold people accountable for every situation they encounter, whether in their worship, their work, their family life, or their dealings with society. For this reason, a person must strive to learn and act upon Islamic teachings so that they conduct themselves correctly in every matter. Doing so ensures a balanced mental and physical state, allowing them to place everything and everyone in their life in its proper position, while preparing adequately for accountability on the Day of Judgment. This holistic conduct results in tranquility in both this world and the hereafter. A person must also avoid treating Islam as though it were a garment to be worn or removed according to their desires. To behave in this way is to worship one's own inclinations rather than Allah, the Exalted, even if one claims otherwise. Chapter 25 Al-Furqan, verse 43.
Have you seen the one who takes as his God his own desire?
Those who fail to apply Islamic teachings consistently across all aspects of life will inevitably misuse the blessings they have been granted. Wealth, health, family, and opportunities will be misplaced, leading to imbalance in both mental and physical states. Such negligence leaves them unprepared for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Even if they enjoy certain worldly luxuries, they will face stress, hardship, and adversity in both worlds, deprived of the peace that comes only through obedience to Allah, the Exalted, in every situation. Allah, the Exalted, makes it clear that his observation encompasses every aspect of human life, their intentions, their speech, and their actions. Nothing is hidden from him, whether it relates to religious duties or worldly responsibilities. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 11.
Indeed I, of what you do, am seeing.
This verse reminds people that accountability is not limited to acts of worship such as prayer, fasting, or charity, but extends to every matter they engage in: family life, work, social interactions, and civic duties. Every choice, whether public or private, is observed by Allah, the Exalted, and will be weighed on the Day of Judgment. The implication is profound. A person cannot compartmentalize their life, treating religion as separate from worldly affairs. Just as Allah, the Exalted, sees their devotion in worship, He also sees how they conduct themselves in business, how they treat others, and how they fulfill their responsibilities. True obedience therefore requires consistency across all aspects of life, ensuring that every action reflects sincerity and righteousness. This awareness should inspire humility and vigilance. Knowing that Allah, the Exalted, is always seeing instills a sense of responsibility, encouraging people to act with integrity even when no one else is watching. It also provides comfort to the sincere, assuring them that their efforts, however unnoticed by others, are fully recognized by Allah, the Exalted. As the Holy Prophet Dawood, peace be upon him, led by example in both worldly and religious matters, he ensured that his family, including his son, the Holy Prophet Sulaiman, peace be upon him, adopted the same upright conduct of remaining firm in obedience to Allah the Exalted in every situation. His life demonstrated that leadership is not merely about words but about consistent action, and that true guidance is achieved when one's behavior reflects the teachings of Allah the Exalted. This principle of leading by example is timeless. When elders embody the teachings of Islam in their speech and actions, those under their care naturally recognize its truthfulness and are inspired to follow it. Leading by example requires more than outward ritual. It involves learning the teachings of Islam, internalizing them, and acting upon them with sincerity. Only then can a person effectively teach the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, to the next generation. When children and youth see evidence of Islam's truthfulness in the conduct of their parents and elders, they are more likely to accept it with conviction rather than blind imitation. This ensures that they remain firm upon the teachings of Islam throughout their lives, even when faced with challenges or societal pressures. It is regrettable that many parents today devote great energy to teaching their children worldly knowledge, which leads to worldly success, yet neglect their responsibility of imparting religious education. Often, they hand over this duty entirely to others, forgetting that it is their obligation to teach their children the foundations of Islam directly. While encouraging the pursuit of worldly knowledge is praiseworthy, it must never come at the expense of religious instruction. Sending children to mosques merely to learn how to recite the Holy Quran without understanding its meaning is insufficient. Such an approach risks reducing Islam to a cultural practice rather than a living truth. A teenager, for example, needs to accept Islam based on clear evidence, not blind imitation. If they are taught only to follow rituals without understanding, they may eventually drift away from Islam, perceiving it as a cultural identity that can be discarded over time. By contrast, when they are shown the proofs and evidences of Islam's truthfulness, they recognize it as a comprehensive way of life that must be applied in every situation and in the use of every blessing granted by Allah, the Exalted. This conviction anchors them firmly in faith and practice. This outcome is only possible when elders within the family take responsibility for teaching the truth of Islam themselves. Parents and guardians must lead by example, demonstrating sincerity in worship, honesty in dealings, and integrity in fulfilling responsibilities. When children witness their elders living by Islamic principles, they see Islam not as abstract theory but as a practical reality. In this way, the next generation is nurtured upon evidence, conviction, and lived experience, ensuring that they remain steadfast in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, throughout their lives. As the Holy Prophet Sulaiman, peace be upon him, walked in the path of his father, the Holy Prophet Dawood, peace be upon him, by constantly obeying Allah, the Exalted, he was granted blessings of extraordinary magnitude. His obedience was not partial or selective, but complete, encompassing both worldly responsibilities and spiritual devotion. Chapter 34 Saba, verses 12 to 13.
And to Solomon we subjected the wind. Its morning journey was that of a month, and its afternoon journey was that of a month, and we made flow for him a spring of liquid copper. And among the jinn were those who worked for him by the permission of his Lord. And whoever deviated among them from our command, we will make him taste of the punishment of the blaze. They made for him what he willed of elevated chambers, statues, bowls like reservoirs, and stationary kettles. We said, "Work, O family of David, in gratitude."
This command highlights that gratitude is the key to sustaining and increasing blessings. Gratitude is not limited to words of thanks, but is expressed through intention, speech, and action. Gratitude in intention means that every act is performed solely to please Allah, the Exalted, without seeking worldly recognition or selfish gain. Gratitude in speech means speaking only what is good, beneficial, and truthful, or remaining silent when words may cause harm. Gratitude in action means using every blessing, whether wealth, knowledge, health, or authority, in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. When gratitude is practiced in this comprehensive manner, it leads to further blessings and greater peace of mind. Chapter 14 Ibrahim, verse 7.
If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor.
A grateful person achieves success in both worlds by maintaining a balanced mental and physical state. They correctly position everything and everyone in their life, ensuring that relationships, responsibilities, and possessions are managed with wisdom and moderation. Gratitude thus becomes the foundation of tranquility, protecting a person from arrogance, misuse of blessings, and imbalance. It transforms worldly gifts into means of spiritual growth and ensures that every blessing becomes a step closer to Allah, the Exalted. Showing gratitude to Allah, the Exalted, in its true form often contradicts the worldly desires of people. Many individuals, even those who profess belief in Allah, the Exalted, reduce gratitude to mere words of praise while neglecting its deeper requirements of intention, speech, and action. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 13.
And few of my servants are grateful.
This verse highlights the rarity of genuine gratitude, which demands that blessings be used in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, rather than for selfish indulgence. True gratitude requires discipline, restraint, and sincerity, qualities that often conflict with the pursuit of worldly pleasures and ambitions. As a result of neglecting this comprehensive gratitude, people persist in ingratitude by misusing the blessings they have been granted. Wealth is spent on extravagance rather than charity, health is wasted on indulgence rather than worship, and time is consumed by distractions rather than remembrance. This misuse leads to imbalance in both mental and physical states, as blessings are not placed in their rightful positions. Relationships are strained, priorities are misplaced, and responsibilities are neglected, leaving the person unprepared for accountability on the day of judgment. The consequences of such ingratitude are severe. Even if a person enjoys certain worldly luxuries, they will inevitably face stress, trouble, and difficulties in both realms. Their life will lack true tranquility, as the misuse of blessings creates inner turmoil and external hardship. By contrast, those who show gratitude in intention, speech, and action achieve balance, peace of mind, and success in both worlds, for they align themselves with the divine order established by Allah the Exalted. The leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca, fearing the loss of their social influence and leadership, employed various baseless methods to discourage others from accepting Islam. Among these was the claim that supernatural beings, such as the jinn, were the source of the Holy Quran. This accusation was intended to undermine the divine authority of the revelation by attributing it to creatures whose nature was mysterious to many. Yet Allah, the Exalted, refuted this falsehood in several places within the Holy Quran, making clear that the jinn do not possess the qualities necessary to reveal divine scripture. One of the strongest refutations is found in verse 14, where Allah, the Exalted, explains that the Holy Quran contains knowledge of the unseen, including descriptions of the Day of Judgment. The jinn, however, have no access to such knowledge. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 14.
And when we decreed for Solomon death, nothing indicated to the jinn his death except a creature of the earth eating his staff. But when he fell, it became clear to the jinn that if they had known the unseen, they would not have remained in humiliating punishment.
This incident demonstrates the limitations of the jinn. They remained enslaved to the Holy Prophet Sulaiman, peace be upon him, continuing their labor even after his death. If they had possessed knowledge of the unseen, they would have realized that he had passed away and freed themselves from servitude. Instead, they remained unaware until Allah the Exalted revealed his death to them through the decay of his staff. The lesson is clear: the jinn cannot access the unseen, nor can they reveal divine scripture. The Holy Quran, with its profound knowledge of the unseen and its unmatched eloquence, could only have come from Allah the Exalted. The baseless claims of the Meccan leaders were therefore exposed as attempts to protect their worldly power, rather than genuine objections to the truth. Chapter 26 Ash-Shu'ara, verses 210 to 212.
And the devils have not brought the revelation down. It is not allowable for them, nor would they be able. Indeed, they from its hearing are removed.
To adopt the correct belief regarding the infinite knowledge of Allah the Exalted, one must firmly recognize that his knowledge is innate, boundless, and without beginning or end. It is absolute, encompassing all things past, present, and future, as well as what is hidden and what is manifest. In contrast, the knowledge of creation is always divinely granted, limited in scope, and subject to both a beginning and an end. This distinction must be kept clear in the mind, for any attempt to equate the knowledge of creation with the knowledge of Allah the Exalted leads to error. Beyond this fundamental understanding, further speculation or debate is discouraged, as it inevitably draws one into fruitless discussions that neither increase faith nor prepare one for accountability. Since such matters will not be questioned on the Day of Judgment, a person should instead focus on the issues that will be questioned, such as honesty in business dealings, fairness in social interactions, and sincerity in worship. In addition, one must be cautious of those who claim to possess or have access to knowledge of the unseen. Such individuals exploit the ignorance and desperation of people who yearn for worldly gains, whether wealth, success, or even children. Their deception leads others away from reliance upon Allah, the Exalted, and into false hopes. To protect one's faith, it is essential to avoid the company of such people altogether. Instead, one should dedicate themselves to learning and acting upon the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. These sources provide clear guidance on how to use the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted in ways that are pleasing to him. By adhering to this path, a person ensures that they employ their blessings correctly, achieving a balanced mental and physical state. They will place everything and everyone in their life in its rightful position, avoiding misuse and imbalance. This discipline prepares them adequately for accountability on the Day of Judgment, where every blessing will be weighed against how it was used. Such conduct leads to peace of mind in both worlds, as the individual lives with clarity, purpose, and harmony, free from deception and misguidance. After presenting the examples of the holy prophets Dawood and Sulaiman, peace be upon them, who embodied gratitude and were rewarded with immense blessings, Allah, the Exalted, turns attention to the people of Saba to highlight the opposite reality, the consequences of ingratitude. Their story serves as a timeless lesson for all generations. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 15.
There was for the tribe of Saba, in their dwelling place assigned, 2 fields of gardens on the right and on the left. They were told, "Eat from the provisions of your Lord and be grateful to Him."
This verse demonstrates that Allah, the Exalted, does not demand perfection from His servants. He does not expect them to live without error or weakness. Instead, He requires that they use their blessings correctly, as outlined in divine teachings, and avoid persisting in sin. Gratitude was the key to sustaining their prosperity. By acknowledging the source of their blessings and employing them in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, they would secure peace of mind in both worlds. This peace would manifest as a balanced mental and physical state, enabling them to place everything and everyone in their lives in its rightful position. Moreover, Allah, the Exalted, assured them of forgiveness for any sins they happened to commit, provided they remained sincere in their gratitude and obedience. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 15.
A good land have you, and a forgiving Lord.
This statement captures the completeness of divine favor. Their land was fertile, abundant, and capable of sustaining them with ease, while their Lord was forgiving, ready to pardon their shortcomings if they remained grateful. Together, these blessings formed the perfect environment for success in both worlds. The people of Saba were given every opportunity to live in peace, prosperity, and spiritual security. The story of the people of Saba serves as a powerful reminder of how ingratitude transforms blessings into burdens. Despite being surrounded by abundance and prosperity, their desires and aspirations led them to misuse what Allah, the Exalted, had granted. Instead of recognizing their blessings as trusts to be used in obedience, they turned away, persisting in ingratitude. As a result, the very gifts that should have brought them peace and ease became sources of distress. Chapter 34 Saba, verses 16 to 17.
But they turned away, refusing. So we sent upon them the flood of the dam, and we replaced their 2 fields of gardens with gardens of bitter fruit, tamarisks, and something of sparse lot trees. By that we repaid them, because they ungrateful.
This passage illustrates the principle that ingratitude leads to loss. When blessings are misused, they are either taken away or transformed into sources of hardship. The fertile gardens of Saba were replaced with bitter fruit and sparse trees, a stark contrast to the abundance they once enjoyed. Their ingratitude brought about imbalance, stripping them of both material prosperity and inner peace. The lesson extends beyond their time. Ingratitude prevents a person from achieving a balanced mental and physical state. It causes them to misplace everything and everyone in their life, turning family, friends, career, and wealth into sources of stress rather than comfort. Persisting in disobedience leads them to blame the wrong people and circumstances for their difficulties. They may even cut good influences out of their lives, worsening their condition until they fall into mental disorders, depression, substance addiction, and even suicidal tendencies. This outcome is visible in every generation, particularly among those who misuse their blessings, such as the rich and famous, who, despite enjoying worldly luxuries, often live in turmoil and despair. Ultimately, ingratitude not only destroys peace in this world, but also prevents preparation for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Those who persist in misusing blessings will face a far greater punishment in the hereafter, for Allah, the Exalted, makes clear that such repayment is reserved for the ungrateful. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 17.
And do we thus repay except the ungrateful?
The nation of Saba was granted a blessing that was unique and rare in its time. Their land was strategically located in such a way that they had easy access to surrounding cities for trade and travel. In that era, most cities were isolated, and journeys between them were long, dangerous, and often plagued by natural obstacles or plunderers. Yet Allah, the Exalted, granted the people of Saba both security and ease, shortening their journeys and protecting them from harm. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 18.
And we placed between them and the cities which we had blessed, many visible cities. And we determined between them the distances of journey, saying, travel between them by night or day in safety.
This arrangement ensured prosperity for the entire population, as the economy of any nation is founded upon its ability to trade. By making travel safe and accessible, Allah, the Exalted, allowed both rich and poor traders to benefit equally, creating a balanced society where opportunities were shared. The ease of travel meant that even those with limited resources could participate in trade and tourism, thereby spreading wealth and opportunity across all levels of society. This blessing was not only material but also social, as it promoted fairness, equality, and unity among the people. However, instead of showing gratitude for this blessing, the wealthy merchants manifested greed. They desired that the journeys become longer and more difficult, so that poorer traders, who lacked resources, would be unable to compete. In this way, the rich sought to monopolize trade and increase their profits at the expense of others. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 19.
But insolently they said, our Lord, lengthen the distance between our journeys, and wronged themselves.
This behavior illustrates a timeless truth. When the divine code of conduct is abandoned, injustice inevitably arises. The wealthy and elite, driven by greed, manipulate systems to secure their own prosperity, even if it means oppressing others. Their desire for exclusivity and control led them to reject the fairness Allah, the Exalted, had established, thereby wronging themselves. By seeking to deprive others of opportunity, they undermined the very balance that sustained their society. Their ingratitude transformed a blessing into a curse, and their greed became the cause of their downfall. One of the aims of Islam is to ensure that the rights of all people within society are fulfilled, regardless of wealth or status. When this principle is ignored, injustice spreads, and the rich and elite manipulate laws and regulations to cater to their own desires. This injustice is not confined to the people of Saba. It is visible in societies throughout history and in the present day, where systems are often designed to serve the wealthy while the rest of society suffers. When the divine code of conduct is abandoned, greed replaces gratitude, oppression replaces justice, and imbalance replaces harmony. The lesson is clear: blessings are meant to be shared, not hoarded. When gratitude is replaced with selfishness, societies collapse into corruption and hardship. By contrast, when divine guidance is followed, justice prevails, rights are fulfilled, and prosperity is sustained for all. Chapter 34 Saba, verses 18 to 19.
And we placed between them and the cities which we had blessed, many visible cities. And we determined between them the distances of journey, saying, travel between them by night or day in safety. But insolently they said, our Lord, lengthen the distance between our journeys.
The reason behind the supplication of the people of Saba, and their desire to lengthen the journey between their city and other cities, can be understood as stemming from their dislike of migrants who traveled to their prosperous land in search of opportunities and a better life. The people of Saba, consumed by greed and arrogance, did not wish to share the blessings Allah, the Exalted, had granted them with others. Instead of recognizing that their wealth and resources were divine trusts, meant to be used for the benefit of all creation, they sought to isolate themselves, cutting off the resources of Saba from the rest of the world. This attitude reflected a selfish desire to hoard wealth and privilege, rather than acknowledging the responsibility that comes with divine favor. Their supplication was not born out of gratitude or humility, but out of fear of losing their dominance and comfort to those who sought refuge and sustenance. This same attitude has been adopted by greedy people across time, who resent honest and hard-working migrants seeking a better life on the earth that belongs entirely to Allah, the Exalted. Such individuals fail to recognize that the earth and its resources are not theirs to monopolize, but are divine trusts meant to be distributed with justice and compassion. Their hostility towards migrants is rooted in fear of losing privilege, rather than in any genuine concern for fairness or balance. They forget that they themselves are dependent upon the mercy of Allah, the Exalted, and that their ancestors were once migrants who settled in lands that were not originally theirs. By denying others the opportunity to live and thrive, they demonstrate ingratitude for the blessings they enjoy, and arrogance in assuming ownership over what ultimately belongs to Allah, the Exalted. Even in the present day, many governments take drastic measures to prevent migrants from entering their countries, despite the fact that these very nations were built upon the contributions of earlier migrants who settled there. History demonstrates that societies often flourish because of migration, as new communities bring labor, skills, and diversity that strengthen nations. The infrastructure, economies, and cultures of many powerful states today are the direct result of migration, yet they now seek to deny others the same opportunities that their predecessors once enjoyed. This hypocrisy mirrors the arrogance of the people of Saba, who wish to isolate themselves and hoard their blessings, only to face ruin as a consequence of their ingratitude. This serves as a reminder that greed and selfishness lead to isolation and eventual downfall, while generosity and openness to others align with the divine purpose of creation. Those who recognize that the earth belongs to Allah, the Exalted, will understand that sharing its blessings is not only a moral duty, but also a path to collective prosperity and peace. Welcoming others, supporting the needy, and sharing resources are acts of obedience to Allah, the Exalted, and a means of preserving blessings. By contrast, hoarding wealth, denying opportunities, and isolating oneself from others are signs of arrogance that invite divine displeasure. The story of Saba is therefore not merely a historical account but a timeless lesson for all societies. Blessings are preserved through gratitude and sharing, but they are lost through greed and selfishness. As both the rich and the poor among the people of Saba displayed ingratitude in their own ways, they inevitably faced the consequences of their actions. The very blessings that had once been a source of ease and prosperity became a source of stress and hardship. Their ingratitude corrupted their hearts and minds, leading them to misuse what Allah, the Exalted, had entrusted to them. As a result, they obtained an unbalanced mental and physical state, misplacing everything and everyone within their lives. Their priorities became distorted, their relationships strained, and their responsibilities neglected. Most importantly, they failed to adequately prepare for their accountability on the Day of Judgment, where every blessing will be weighed against how it was used. This imbalance led to stress, trouble, and difficulties in both worlds, even though they continued to enjoy certain worldly luxuries. Their wealth, status, and possessions could not shield them from inner turmoil, nor could they prevent the collapse of their society. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 19.
So we made them narrations and dispersed them in total dispersion.
This verse signifies that their ingratitude led to their destruction, leaving them as nothing more than a story for future generations to reflect upon. Their once thriving civilization was scattered, their unity broken, and their prosperity lost. They became an example of how ingratitude transforms blessings into burdens, and how misuse of divine gifts leads to ruin. The lesson is timeless. Ingratitude does not only affect individuals but entire communities. When blessings are misused, societies lose balance, families fracture, and nations decline. By contrast, gratitude sustains blessings, nurtures peace of mind, and ensures success in both worlds. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 19.
Indeed, in that are signs for everyone patient and grateful.
This verse stands as a striking warning against adopting a self-centered outlook, where one's attention is restricted to personal circumstances, while ignoring the wider realities that surround them. Such a narrow perspective blinds the heart from recognizing the wisdom that can be drawn from history, from the trials one experiences, and from observing the lives of others. Reflection upon these lessons is one of the most effective means of refining character, avoiding repeated mistakes, and attaining lasting inner peace. True peace is achieved through balance, mentally and physically, and by correctly positioning everything and everyone within one's life. For example, when one observes how the wealthy and renowned misuse the blessings they have been granted, only to be overtaken by anxiety, depression, addiction, or even suicide, despite their comforts, it becomes clear that genuine tranquility cannot be purchased with wealth or secured through unchecked desires. Likewise, witnessing someone struggle with illness should stir gratitude for one's own health and inspire its proper use before it slips away. Islam therefore calls upon people to remain mindful and reflective, to look beyond the narrow lens of their own situation, and to extract wisdom from the world around them. Those who do so will cultivate gratitude during times of ease and patience during times of difficulty, learning from the past that this approach ensures peace of mind in both worlds. Gratitude itself is multi-layered. Gratitude in intention means acting solely to please Allah, the Exalted. Gratitude in speech means speaking only what is good or remaining silent. Gratitude in action means using every blessing in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This comprehensive gratitude leads to further blessings and success in both worlds. Chapter 14 Ibrahim, verse 7.
If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor.
Patience is equally vital. It requires refraining from complaints in speech or action, and remaining steadfast in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, with the conviction that He only chooses what is best, even when this is not apparent. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 216.
But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows while you know not.
Thus, the one who responds correctly in every situation, showing gratitude in ease and patience in difficulty, will enjoy the constant support and mercy of Allah, the Exalted. This leads to peace of mind in both worlds, through balance and proper placement of everything and everyone in life. This principle is reinforced in a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 7500. Allah, the Exalted, makes it clear through the account of the people of Saba, that those who persist in ingratitude inevitably walk the same path as the devil, who was the first to display ingratitude. Chapter 7 Al-Araf, verses 16 to 17.
Satan said, Because you have put me in error, I will surely sit in wait for them on your straight path. Then I will come to them from before them and from behind them and on their right and on their left, and you will not find most of them grateful.
This statement reveals that ingratitude is not merely a weakness, but a deliberate strategy of the devil to divert people from the straight path. His aim is to surround them from all directions, leaving them blind to their blessings and ungrateful to Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 20.
And Iblis had already confirmed through them his assumption, so they followed him.
This verse demonstrates that the devil's prediction was fulfilled, as many people chose ingratitude and thereby followed him. Their ingratitude led them to misuse blessings, misplace priorities, and neglect accountability. The result was stress, trouble, and difficulties in both worlds. They obtained an unbalanced mental and physical state, and everything within their lives, family, wealth, and relationships, became a source of turmoil rather than peace. As indicated by verse 20, the only way to avoid falling into the deception of the devil is to adopt strong faith. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 20.
So they followed him, except for a party of believers.
This verse highlights that strong faith is the shield which protects a person from the schemes of the devil. It ensures that one remains firm in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, through every circumstance, whether times of ease or difficulty. Strong faith is not obtained through mere verbal declaration, but through learning and acting upon the clear proofs and evidences found within the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. These divine sources explain that sincerely obeying Allah, the Exalted, leads to peace of mind in both worlds. They show that tranquility is not found in following desires, but in surrendering them to the commands of Allah, the Exalted. On the other hand, the one who remains ignorant of Islamic teachings will inevitably possess weak faith. Such a person will easily disobey Allah, the Exalted, whenever their desires are contradicted, as they fail to recognize that leaving their desires and instead obeying Allah, the Exalted, is the true key to peace of mind in both worlds. Their ignorance blinds them to the reality that obedience brings balance, while indulgence in desires brings imbalance and turmoil. Therefore, certainty of faith must be obtained through learning and acting upon Islamic knowledge. This certainty anchors a person in obedience, ensuring they remain firm at all times. It involves correctly using the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted, wealth, health, family, and opportunities, in ways pleasing to Him, as outlined in Islamic teachings. When blessings are used correctly, they become sources of benefit rather than harm. This leads to a balanced mental and physical state, allowing a person to correctly place everything and everyone within their life. Such balance ensures that life is lived with dignity, purpose, and peace of mind in both worlds, while preparing adequately for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Allah, the Exalted, removes every excuse that people might attempt to use in order to justify their ingratitude. Through the story of Saba and the clear verses of the Holy Quran, he establishes that the devil does not possess the power to compel anyone into disobedience. His influence is limited to invitation and suggestion, and it is therefore up to each individual to either reject his call or accept it. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 21.
And he had over them no authority.
And chapter 14 Ibrahim, verse 22.
And Satan will say, when the matter has been concluded, indeed, Allah had promised you the promise of truth. And I promised you, but I betrayed you. But I had no authority over you, except that I invited you, and you responded to me. So do not blame me, but blame yourselves.
These verses make it clear that responsibility for ingratitude lies entirely with the individual. Neither Allah, the Exalted, nor the devil, nor any other person can be blamed for one's misguidance. When someone chooses to misuse the blessings they have been granted, they alone are accountable for the consequences. Failing to take responsibility for one's actions is a destructive attitude. It prevents the improvement of character and leads to persistence in misusing blessings. Such behavior results in imbalance, both mental and physical, as priorities are misplaced and relationships are mismanaged. The individual fails to prepare for accountability on the day of judgment, and the outcome is stress, challenges, and hardships in both worlds, regardless of any worldly luxuries they may possess. Moreover, neglecting responsibility has wider social consequences. It prevents the fulfillment of the rights of others, leading to misguidance, corruption, and injustice within society. When individuals refuse to acknowledge their own faults, they not only harm themselves but also mislead others, spreading imbalance and disorder throughout their community. Allah, the Exalted, then indicates that the distinction between those who adopt gratitude toward Him and those who follow the path of the devil by expressing ingratitude lies in possessing a firm belief in one's accountability on Judgment Day. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 21.
And he had over them no authority except it was decreed that we might make evident who believes in the hereafter, from who is thereof in doubt.
It becomes clear, therefore, that a person must learn and act upon Islamic teachings in order to strengthen their belief in their accountability, ensuring that they avoid following the path of the devil through ingratitude. When a person observes the universe, they will notice numerous examples of balance. For instance, the Earth is positioned at a perfectly balanced distance from the Sun. If it were slightly closer or farther, life would not be sustainable. Likewise, the water cycle, where water evaporates from the oceans, rises into the atmosphere, condenses and returns as rain, is precisely balanced to support life on Earth. Similarly, the ground has been created with balance, soft enough for delicate shoots and branches of seeds to pierce through and provide crops, yet strong enough to bear heavy buildings. Many such examples exist, all clearly pointing to the existence of a creator and the presence of balance. However, one major element in this world remains evidently unbalanced: the actions of mankind. A person commonly observes tyrannical and oppressive individuals who escape punishment in this world. Conversely, many who are oppressed or who face great difficulties do not receive full reward for their patience. Many people who sincerely obey Allah, the Exalted, face hardships and receive only a small portion of their reward in this life, while those who openly disobey Allah, the Exalted, may enjoy worldly luxuries. Just as Allah, the Exalted, has instituted balance in all His creations, the reward and punishment of actions must also be balanced. Since this balance does not occur fully in this world, it must necessarily take place at another time, namely, the Day of Judgment. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 21.
And your Lord, over all things, is guardian.
Allah, the Exalted, is fully capable of granting complete reward or punishment in this life. However, one of the wisdoms behind not doing so is that Allah, the Exalted, continually grants individuals opportunities to sincerely repent and reform their behavior. He does not grant full reward to a person in this life, because this world is not paradise. Moreover, belief in the unseen, such as the certainty of full reward awaiting a person in the next life, is a fundamental aspect of faith. In fact, belief in the unseen is what elevates faith, for believing only in what can be perceived with the five senses, such as receiving full reward in this world, would not hold the same distinction. Possessing fear of full punishment and hope for complete reward in the hereafter motivates a person to avoid sins and to engage in righteous deeds. For the day of recompense to take place, the material world must come to an end. This is because reward and punishment can only be issued once everyone's actions have concluded. Therefore, the day of recompense cannot occur until the actions of all people have come to an end. This clearly indicates that the material world must eventually cease to exist, whether sooner or later. When a person reflects upon this discussion, their faith in the day of judgment becomes stronger, encouraging them to prepare for it by using the blessings they have been granted in the correct way, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Through this, they gain peace of mind and success in both worlds, achieving a balanced mental and physical state, and placing everything and everyone in their life in its rightful place. Chapter 45 Al-Jatiyah, verse 22.
For Allah created the heavens and the earth for a purpose, so that every soul may be paid back for what it has committed, and none will be wronged.
Through the story of Saba, Allah the Exalted warned mankind to avoid the path of the devil. Similarly, he cautions people against following any command or influence that results in his disobedience, because those things are incapable of leading them to ultimate success and inner tranquility in both worlds. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 22.
Say, invoke those you claim as deities besides Allah. They do not possess an atom's weight of ability in the heavens or on the earth, and they do not have therein any partnership with him, nor is there for him from among them any assistant.
It is important to understand that idols are not the only false deities that people may end up worshipping. In reality, anything that is obeyed in defiance of Allah the Exalted, whether social media, fashion, cultural trends, or even other individuals, becomes an object of worship in practice. Chapter 9 at Tawbah, verse 31.
They have taken their scholars and monks as lords besides Allah.
Here the scholars and monks of the people of the book were not worshipped through rituals of bowing or prostration. Rather, they were obeyed in acts of disobedience to Allah the Exalted, and this obedience itself was judged as worship. The same principle is applied to the devil. Chapter 36 Yasin, verse 60.
Did I not enjoin upon you, O children of Adam, that you not worship Satan, for indeed he is to you a clear enemy?
Most people have not engaged in direct worship of the devil, yet they are accused of such because they obey him in opposition to Allah the Exalted. This demonstrates that worship is not limited to ritual acts, but includes obedience and submission. For this reason, it is essential to avoid obeying any entity in defiance of Allah the Exalted, for such obedience amounts to worship. Those who persist in disobedience inevitably become enslaved to other influences, whether individuals, social media, fashion, culture, or employers. Attempting to satisfy multiple and unjust masters only results in stress, as their demands are conflicting and unpredictable. Just as an employee with several supervisors struggles to meet everyone's expectations, those who abandon servitude to Allah, the Exalted, become weighed down by numerous masters, ultimately sacrificing their peace of mind. Over time, such individuals may experience sadness, isolation, depression, and even suicidal thoughts, as their efforts to please worldly masters fail to bring the satisfaction they seek. This reality is evident when one observes the lives of celebrities, who despite enjoying worldly luxuries, often suffer from inner turmoil. Furthermore, worshipping other entities by yielding to them in disobedience to Allah, the Exalted, will provide no benefit in the hereafter, for these entities will not assist them when they are most in need. The only way to avoid this outcome is to abandon obedience to all influences that lead to disobedience of Allah, the Exalted, and instead devote oneself entirely to Him. This requires using the blessings He has granted, in accordance with the guidance of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. In doing so, a person secures balance, peace of mind, and success in both worlds. Non-Muslims who acknowledge the existence of Allah, the Exalted, such as the non-Muslims of Mecca, often erred in their understanding of His divine attributes. They ascribed to Him human shortcomings, such as fatigue, and consequently viewed Him as a worldly monarch. A monarch by nature, cannot oversee the affairs of his realm alone, and therefore appoints aides, like governors, to assist in managing his kingdom. Based on this flawed analogy, many of these individuals began to worship other entities in the hope of gaining Allah's favor, including angels. However, Allah, the Exalted, warned against this misguided belief. The angels themselves are humble servants of Allah, the Exalted, and possess no independent authority. They can only intercede with His permission, and they hold no special position to intercede on behalf of others unless He allows it. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 23.
And intercession does not benefit with him, except for one whom he permits. And those wait until when terror is removed from their hearts, they will say to one another, "What has your Lord said?" They will say, "The truth. And He is the Most High, the Grand."
This verse establishes two essential truths. First, intercession is not an independent power possessed by angels or any other creation. It is entirely subject to the permission of Allah, the Exalted. Second, the angels themselves are in awe of Him, awaiting His command, and when His decree is revealed, they acknowledge it as the truth. This demonstrates their complete submission and humility before Allah, the Exalted, and refutes the notion that they can act as intermediaries without His will. The lesson is timeless. One must never attribute human limitations to Allah, the Exalted, nor assume that His authority is shared with others. He alone possesses complete control and knowledge, and He alone grants permission for intercession. To seek intermediaries in worship is to misunderstand His perfection and to misplace one's devotion. True servitude lies in direct obedience to Allah, the Exalted, who is the Most High, the Grand. This false notion of obeying others in order to gain favor with Allah, the Exalted, represents a serious deviation from the foundations of Islamic belief. Some Muslims, unfortunately, invest their time, energy and resources in seeking out spiritual figures whom they believe to have a unique connection with Allah, the Exalted. They imagine these figures to function like governors in a worldly kingdom, uniquely connected to the king, and therefore capable of interceding on behalf of those who please them through gifts, displays of respect, or exaggerated devotion. In this way, such individuals are treated as gatekeepers between the general populace and Allah, the Exalted. Yet this concept fundamentally contradicts Islamic teachings. The holy prophets, peace be upon them, never acted as gatekeepers. Their mission was to illuminate the path that leads to the pleasure of Allah, the Exalted, and to demonstrate the methods of obedience and worship. They did not solicit compensation, gifts, or displays of affection from their followers. Instead, they directed people to Allah, the Exalted, alone, teaching that He possesses complete control and authority over the universe and is fully aware of everything that transpires within it. He does not require intermediaries between Himself and humanity. This truth is clearly articulated in the Holy Quran. For example, chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 186.
And when my servants ask you concerning me, indeed I am near. I respond to the invocation of the supplicant when he calls upon me.
And chapter 40 Ghafir, verse 60.
And your Lord says, call upon me, I will respond to you.
Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 255.
Who is it that can intercede with Him except by His permission?
These verses establish that Allah, the Exalted, is near to His servants, ready to respond to their supplications directly, without the need for intermediaries. Intercession is not denied, but it is strictly subject to His permission, and no one possesses independent authority to grant it. Although intercession will indeed occur on the Day of Judgment, it must never be treated with mockery or complacency. To do so may result in being deprived of this divine mercy. Disparaging the concept of intercession often stems from negligence, where individuals fail to use the blessings granted to them in accordance with Islamic principles, yet still expect salvation through intercession. In fact, those who mock or abandon the Quran may find the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, bearing witness against them on the Day of Judgment. Chapter 25 Al-Furqan, verse 30.
And the Messenger has said, O my Lord, indeed my people have taken this Quran as a thing abandoned.
This verse pertains specifically to Muslims, for they are the community that has acknowledged and embraced the Holy Quran. Non-Muslims, having not accepted its guidance, cannot be described as abandoning it. The outcome for any Muslim against whom the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, testifies on the Day of Judgment is self-evident. Even in cases where intercession is granted, negligence may not prevent entry into hell. At most, it may reduce the severity of the punishment. It must be understood that even the briefest experience of hell is profoundly unbearable. Therefore, genuine hope in intercession must be accompanied by earnest effort, namely, the active and sincere use of the blessings one has been granted in accordance with the Holy Quran and the teachings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Only then should one hope for intercession on the Day of Judgment, with the clear understanding that Allah, the Exalted, alone authorizes it. Allah, the Exalted, reminds humanity that since He alone created and sustains them, He alone is worthy of their obedience. Even in worldly life, when a person provides for another in some aspect, such as offering housing or financial support, it is considered proper to show gratitude. How much more then should gratitude be shown to Allah, the Exalted, who has granted every blessing within the universe? Chapter 34 Saba, verse 24.
Say, who provides for you from the heavens and the earth? Say, Allah.
As discussed earlier, gratitude must be expressed in three dimensions. Gratitude in intention means acting solely to please Allah, the Exalted. If one acts for other reasons, such as seeking praise or recognition, they will not obtain reward from Him. This warning is found in a hadith recorded in Jami at Tirmidhi, number 3154. A positive sign of sincerity in intention is that a person does not expect or hope for appreciation or compensation from others. Gratitude in speech means speaking what is good or remaining silent. Gratitude in action means using the blessings one has been granted in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, as outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Such comprehensive gratitude leads to an increase in blessings and ultimately to peace of mind in both worlds, through achieving a balanced mental and physical state, and correctly placing everything and everyone within one's life. Chapter 14 Ibrahim, verse 7.
If you are grateful, I will surely increase you in favor.
Furthermore, when a person owns an object, it is considered correct and normal for them to use it however they please. By analogy, since Allah, the Exalted, created, owns and sustains everything within the universe, including people, He alone decides what should occur within it. It is therefore only fair that people obey Him, as He alone possesses ownership of all things. Similarly, when one lends something they own to another, it is only fair that the borrower uses the item according to the wishes of its owner. Allah, the Exalted, has granted every blessing a person possesses as a loan, not as a gift. Like worldly loans, this loan must be repaid. The only way to repay it is to use blessings in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted. By contrast, the blessings of paradise are gifts, and people will be free to use them as they desire. Chapter 7 Al-Araf, verse 43.
And they will be called, this is paradise which you have been made to inherit for what you used to do.
A person must therefore never confuse the blessings of this world, which are loans entrusted to them, with the gifts of paradise. Worldly blessings must be used responsibly, in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, while the gifts of paradise will be enjoyed freely as a reward for sincere faith and righteous deeds. The one who demonstrates gratitude in the manner outlined, through intention, speech, and action, is rightly guided. Such a person recognizes that every blessing is a trust from Allah, the Exalted, and uses it in ways pleasing to Him. This attitude secures balance in both mental and physical states, ensures that everything and everyone in life is placed in its rightful position, and prepares the individual for accountability on the Day of Judgment. Gratitude, therefore, is not merely an expression of thanks, but a comprehensive way of life that leads to peace of mind in both worlds. By contrast, those who adopt ingratitude, because obedience to Allah, the Exalted, contradicts their worldly desires and aspirations, inevitably misuse the blessings they have been granted. Their ingratitude leads to imbalance, as they misplace priorities, relationships, and responsibilities. They fail to prepare for accountability, and the result is stress, trouble, and difficulties in both worlds, even if they continue to enjoy certain worldly luxuries. Such luxuries cannot shield them from inner turmoil or prevent the consequences of misguidance. The Holy Quran makes the distinction between these two paths clear. It is up to each person to choose whether they will embrace gratitude and thereby secure peace of mind in both worlds, or persist in ingratitude and suffer in both worlds. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 24.
And indeed, we or you are either upon guidance or in clear error.
Allah, the Exalted, makes clear that right guidance is never imposed upon humankind, for compulsion would nullify the very purpose of the test of life in this world. Each individual has been granted free will, and the trial of existence lies in choosing between truth and falsehood. For this reason, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is repeatedly reminded to fulfill his mission of explaining the teachings of the religion, to provide humanity with the perfect role model to follow, and not to concern himself with whether people accept or reject the message. Every soul will ultimately face the consequences of its choice, both in this world and in the hereafter. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 25.
Say, you will not be asked about what we committed, and we will not be asked about what you do.
And chapter 88 Al-Ghashiyah, verses 21 to 22.
So remind you are only a reminder. You are not over them, a controller.
These verses contain timeless wisdom for all who call others to righteousness. They establish that the responsibility of the caller is not to compel belief, but to convey the message with clarity, sincerity, and compassion, leaving the outcome to Allah, the Exalted, who alone guides hearts. This understanding liberates the caller from grief and frustration when their efforts appear fruitless. It prevents despair by reminding them that success is not measured by numbers or worldly recognition, but by faithfulness in delivering the truth. Those who genuinely desire guidance will recognize it when they encounter it, while those who persist in arrogance and heedlessness only harm themselves. The sincere seeker also understands that Allah, the Exalted, never burdens a soul beyond its capacity. Every trial they face is an opportunity to grow in patience, discipline, and faith. They realize that peace in this world and the hereafter requires sacrifice and restraint. They subdue their lower desires, knowing that true satisfaction is not found in indulgence of wealth, status, or fame, but in spiritual fulfillment. This reality is evident when one observes those who appear to possess every worldly advantage, yet remain restless and discontent. Their abundance has not granted them tranquility, because peace of the heart is found only in submission to Allah, the Exalted. Thus, the one who sincerely seeks peace must recognize that real success lies not in compelling others or in chasing worldly pleasures, but in fulfilling their duty, to follow the truth themselves, to share it with compassion, and to entrust the outcome to Allah the Exalted, who guides whom He wills with perfect wisdom. This perspective transforms the caller's role from anxious control to serene trust. It ensures that their efforts remain pure, their patience firm, and their hope anchored in the mercy and justice of Allah the Exalted. It is a reminder that the true measure of success is obedience and sincerity, not worldly acclaim. In this way, the caller becomes a living example of faith, embodying the principle that guidance is a gift from Allah, the Exalted, and that the task of humanity is to deliver the message faithfully, while leaving the decision that people make to the judgment of Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 26.
Say, our Lord will bring us together, then He will judge between us in truth. And He is the knowing judge.
Obedience to Allah, the Exalted, often requires resisting worldly desires. Yet many people turn instead to influences such as social media, fashion, and cultural trends, which are deliberately shaped to appeal to human aspirations. A major reason for this deviation is the tendency to imitate popular behavior without reflection. When individuals see the majority disregarding Islamic teachings, they may assume that the majority must be correct, and so they conform without thought. But history has repeatedly shown that majority opinion is not always aligned with truth. Widely accepted beliefs, such as the claim that the earth was flat, were later overturned when new evidence and knowledge emerged. Chapter 6 Al-An'am, verse 116.
And if you obey most of those upon the earth, they will mislead you from the way of Allah. They follow not except assumption, and they are not but guessing.
And chapter 34 Saba, verse 27.
Say, show me those whom you have attached to Him as partners. No. Rather, He alone is Allah, the exalted in might, the wise.
These verses emphasize that truth is not determined by numbers or popularity, but by divine guidance. To follow the majority without thought is to surrender one's intellect and risk misguided choices in both worldly and spiritual matters. Instead, individuals must use the reasoning and intellect bestowed upon them by Allah, the Exalted. Every situation should be evaluated carefully, based on knowledge and evidence, even if this leads to decisions that diverge from prevailing social norms. Islam strongly condemns blind imitation in matters of faith for this reason, urging people to learn and act upon Islamic teachings with understanding. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
In this way, obedience is rooted in conviction, not assumption, and one remains firm upon the path of Allah, the Exalted, regardless of the behavior of the majority. To adopt the correct behavior and avoid misguided paths, such as blindly imitating others, Allah, the Exalted, has always sent His holy prophets, peace be upon them, with a divine code of conduct. This code was designed to guide people towards peace of mind on an individual level, by helping them achieve a balanced mental and physical state, and by ensuring that everything and everyone in their lives is placed in its rightful position. On a societal level, this code of conduct guarantees peace and justice through the fulfillment of people's rights. The final and perfected version of this divine guidance was revealed through the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 28.
And we have not sent you, except comprehensively to mankind.
No matter how advanced a society may become, and regardless of the knowledge it acquires in various fields, including the mental and physical sciences, it remains impossible for humanity to formulate a code of conduct that is fully aligned with human nature and capable of addressing every circumstance, condition, and scenario that individuals or societies may encounter throughout their existence. Humanity continues to uncover new insights into specific aspects of human existence, such as the functions at different regions of the brain. Yet even this growing knowledge is insufficient to establish a flawless system that fosters tranquility and justice both individually and collectively. Only Allah, the Exalted, possesses the capability to provide such a code of conduct. As the creator of all things, His knowledge is boundless, encompassing the entirety of past, present, and future. He alone is rightly positioned to deliver guidance that distinctly separates good from evil, beneficial from harmful, and that leads to peace of mind in a world otherwise filled with stress and imbalance. History itself demonstrates that whenever this divine code of conduct was sincerely implemented in the lives of individuals, it resulted in the spread of tranquility, justice, and peace throughout society. For this reason, individuals must embrace the guidance bestowed upon them, recognizing it as the most advantageous for their well-being, even if certain elements conflict with their personal desires. They should conduct themselves like a wise patient who acknowledges and adheres to the medical counsel of their physician, understanding that it is ultimately in their best interest, even when the prescription involves unpleasant medication or a strict dietary regimen. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 28.
And we have not sent you, except comprehensively to mankind as a bringer of good tidings and a warner.
It is essential to recognize that the good news and warnings conveyed through Islamic teachings only bring benefit when they are met with practical response. Mere acknowledgement or verbal affirmation is insufficient. What matters is how one acts upon the guidance. The individual who responds practically by correctly using the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted them, according to the standards outlined in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, will attain peace of mind in both worlds. This peace arises from achieving a balanced mental and physical state, and from rightly ordering everything and everyone within their life. Since obeying Allah, the Exalted, often contradicts the worldly desires of people, many of them will ignorantly choose to pursue those desires instead, thereby misusing the blessings they have been granted. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 28.
But most of the people do not know.
Their attitude will lead them into imbalance, both mentally and physically. They will misplace priorities, relationships, and responsibilities, and they will neglect proper preparation for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. As a result, they will inevitably face stress, hardship, and difficulty in both worlds. Even if they outwardly enjoy certain worldly luxuries, these will not shield them from inner turmoil or from the consequences of their misguidance. Thus, the two paths are clear, one of gratitude and obedience, leading to balance, tranquility, and eternal success, and one of ingratitude and negligence, leading to imbalance, hardship, and ultimate loss. The choice rests with each individual, and their response to divine guidance determines their outcome in this world and the hereafter. The leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca, fearing the loss of their authority and influence, employed various strategies to dissuade people from embracing Islam. One of their tactics was to demand knowledge of the exact time of the Day of Judgment. When they were not given this information, they attempted to use it as proof against the truthfulness of Islam. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 29.
And they say, when is this promise if you should be truthful?
Such reasoning was deeply flawed. Not knowing the precise time of an event does not mean it will not occur. Death, for example, is inevitable, yet its timing remains hidden from people. In the same way, the Day of Judgment is certain, though its exact moment is concealed. This concealment is deliberate, for it ensures that individuals remain in a state of readiness rather than delaying their preparation until the event approaches. A proactive mindset is far more beneficial than a reactive one. Consider the example of a student. If told that a surprise test is imminent, the wise student will prepare daily. But if given a fixed date, complacency may lead them to postpone their study, leaving them unprepared when the test arrives. Chapter 7 Al-Araf, verse 187.
It lays heavily upon the heavens and the earth. It will not come upon you except unexpectedly.
This verse also serves as a rebuke to those who claim that they will not accept or implement Islamic teachings until every matter, including the unseen realities such as angels, is made visible and fully comprehensible to them. Such a stance is misguided, for the true essence of faith lies in believing in realities that cannot be perceived through the five senses, such as witnessing Allah, the Exalted. Faith derives its value precisely from conviction in what is unseen. Yet these unseen realities are not without evidence, for they are substantiated by countless signs and proofs scattered throughout the heavens and the earth. Just as the existence of a painting points unmistakably to the presence of a painter, so too does the existence of creation testify to the Creator, especially when creation itself displays perfection, harmony, and balance. Furthermore, human beings regularly rely upon phenomena they cannot perceive or fully understand, yet they do so without hesitation. For example, countless individuals consume medicine without comprehending how it functions within the body, yet they trust in its effects. In the same way, the ethical framework of Islam is firmly grounded in rational thought and evidence, but it also requires belief in unseen realities, which magnifies the uniqueness and worth of faith. For this reason, the declaration of faith by one who has directly witnessed unseen entities, such as angels, will not be acknowledged by Allah, the Exalted, since belief after observation lacks distinction and uniqueness. The true test of human beings lies in their ability to accept reality even when it cannot be directly perceived, and in their sincere obedience to Allah, the Exalted, despite possessing the capacity to disobey Him. Through the sending of His holy prophets, peace be upon them, and the revelation of divine scriptures, Allah, the Exalted, has consistently ensured that there remains space for evaluating human judgment and compliance. He has never unveiled reality to such an extent that acceptance becomes compulsory, for if that were the case, the very purpose of testing would be nullified, and the concepts of success and failure would lose all meaning. Therefore, individuals must not expect the unseen realities to be revealed to them in this world, such as the direct appearance of Allah, the Exalted, or His angels. Such an unveiling would mark the conclusion of all things, leaving no opportunity for choice or decision. Faith and obedience hold significance only so long as reality is presented in a manner that allows for rejection, as well as acceptance. If the truth were fully revealed, and the unseen aspects of the universe and the hereafter were made visible, then faith and obedience would lose their value, for even the most obstinate disbelievers and the gravest sinners would submit without resistance. Thus, the acceptance of faith and obedience is meaningful only while a veil obscures reality. The moment that veil is lifted and reality is completely unveiled, will mark the end of the time allotted for individuals to make decisions and conclude their testing period. That decisive moment is none other than the Day of Judgment. Allah, the Exalted, redirected the misguided demands of the disbelievers, who sought to know the precise timing of the Day of Judgment. Their intention was not sincere inquiry, but an attempt to undermine the truth of Islam. In response, Allah, the Exalted, reminded them that the time of the Day of Judgment is already fixed, and when it arrives, no one will be granted even the briefest extension to repent or reform, nor will anyone be able to hasten it. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 30.
Say, for you is the appointment of a day when you will not remain there after an hour, nor will you precede it.
The lesson contained in this verse is profound. The focus should not be on the exact timing of the Day of Judgment, which remains concealed, but rather on practical preparation for it. Preparation is achieved by correctly using the blessings Allah, the Exalted, has granted, in accordance with the guidance of the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. It is also vital to remember that even if the Day of Judgment itself is many years away, the reality of accountability begins much sooner, at the moment of death. Death is near to every individual, regardless of how long they live, and it marks the beginning of their personal reckoning. Thus, the wise person does not delay repentance or obedience, nor do they allow worldly distractions to prevent them from preparing for what is certain. This reminder shifts the emphasis from curiosity about the unseen to responsibility in the present. The concealment of the exact time is a mercy, as it compels people to remain in a state of readiness, ensuring that they live each day with awareness of their accountability before Allah, the Exalted. In general, one of the greatest obstacles preventing a person from practically preparing for their accountability before Allah, the Exalted, is the false hope of a long life. This is an extremely blameworthy characteristic, for it leads people to prioritize the accumulation of worldly possessions over preparation for the eternal hereafter. A simple reflection on one's daily routine reveals this truth. How much of the average 24 hours is spent on worldly pursuits compared to time dedicated to the hereafter? False hope of longevity is one of the most effective weapons used by the devil to misguide people. When individuals convince themselves that they will live long, they delay repentance and preparation, falsely believing they can attend to these matters in the near future. In most cases, this near future never arrives, and death overtakes them before they have adequately prepared. This misplaced hope also causes people to postpone sincere repentance and the effort to reform their character, as they assume they have ample time left. It encourages hoarding of wealth and material possessions, convincing them that these will be needed during their imagined long life. The devil frightens them into thinking they must secure wealth for old age, lest they find themselves unsupported when they grow weak and unable to work. They forget that Allah, the Exalted, who provided for them in youth, will continue to provide in old age. Indeed, provision was decreed for all creation 50,000 years before the creation of the heavens and the earth, as confirmed in a hadith found in Sahih Muslim, number 6748. It is astonishing that people dedicate decades, sometimes 40 years, saving for retirement, which rarely lasts more than 20 years, yet fail to prepare with equal seriousness for the eternal hereafter. Islam does not forbid preparation for worldly needs. There is no harm in saving for the near future, provided that priority is given to the hereafter. Yet many people, despite admitting that death may come at any time, behave as though they will live forever. Even if they were promised eternal life on earth, they would not be able to strive harder to accumulate more of the material world, for the limitations of day and night would still restrict them. How many have died earlier than expected, and how many truly learn from this reality? In truth, one of the greatest pains a person will experience at death, or in the hereafter, is regret for delaying preparation. Chapter 63 Al-Munafiqun, verses 10 to 11.
And spend in the way of Allah from what we have provided you before death approaches one of you, and he says, My Lord, if only you would delay me for a brief term, so I would give charity and be of the righteous. But never will Allah delay a soul when its time has come. And Allah is aware of what you do.
The folly of prioritizing the temporal world over the eternal hereafter can be illustrated by the example of a person who spends more time and wealth on a house they will inhabit only briefly, while neglecting the house they will live in for a very long time. Such behavior would rightly be called foolish. People are instructed to work for both this world and the hereafter, but they must recognize that death is certain, though its time, situation, and age remain unknown. Therefore, preparation for death and what follows must take precedence over preparation for a worldly future that may never come. The non-Muslims of Mecca, being masters of the Arabic language, were fully aware that the Holy Quran was not the speech of a created being. Its eloquence, depth, and unmatched style were beyond the capacity of human composition. Moreover, having lived alongside the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, for 40 years prior to his announcement of prophethood, they knew him intimately as a man of truth and integrity. He had never been known to lie or deceive. Chapter 10 Yunus, verse 16.
For I had remained among you a lifetime before it. Then will you not reason?
In addition, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had no interaction with previous divine scriptures. This was a reality acknowledged by both the people of the book and the non-Muslims of Mecca. He had not studied, recited, or inscribed any of the earlier revelations, whether in their original or altered forms. This fact further confirms the divine origin of the Holy Quran. Chapter 29 Al-Ankabut, verse 48.
And you did not recite before it any scripture, nor did you inscribe one with your right hand. Then, i.e., otherwise the falsifiers would have had cause for doubt.
Despite recognizing these clear proofs, the leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca persisted in their opposition. Their resistance was not due to genuine doubt, but stemmed from fear of losing their social influence and leadership. They could not produce any legitimate or evidence-based argument against Islam, and so, in desperation, they resorted to childish declarations. They proclaimed that they would never believe in the Holy Quran or any divine scripture, simply because it contradicted their worldly desires and aspirations. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 31.
And those who disbelieve say, we will never believe in this Quran nor in that before it.
This highlights the reality that their rejection was not based on reason or evidence, but on arrogance and attachment to worldly power. The proofs of Islam were clear, yet they chose denial over submission. Islam calls upon people to exercise restraint over their worldly desires, for unchecked indulgence reduces human dignity and makes individuals appear animalistic. Those whose sole aim in life is to gratify their desires naturally criticize Islam, as its teachings expose the baseness of such behavior. Moreover, businesses and industries that profit from the unrestrained pursuit of desires actively oppose Islam, striving to divert people from its guidance so that they may continue exploiting human weakness for material gain. In the face of such criticism and opposition, the believer must remain steadfast in obedience to Allah, the Exalted. He alone provides peace of mind and protection from the harmful effects of people, even when this protection is not immediately apparent. By contrast, those who seek to please society while disobeying Allah, the Exalted, will find neither safety from His punishment nor true satisfaction from society. This is because worldly influences, such as social media, fashion, and culture, are fickle and ever-changing, offering no lasting stability. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 31.
But if you could see when the wrongdoers are made to stand before their Lord, refuting each other's words. Those who were oppressed will say to those who were arrogant, if not for you, we would have been believers.
This verse serves as a profound reminder of the emptiness and futility of blind imitation. In the present world, countless individuals choose to follow leaders, influences, or prevailing societal trends without engaging in reflection or critical thought. They assume that such conformity will secure them acceptance, status, or success, and they sacrifice their independence of judgment in order to align themselves with the majority. Yet this pursuit is deceptive, for it provides only temporary comfort and superficial validation. The reality is that those whom people imitate, whether powerful leaders, cultural icons, or social figures, will not stand by them in the hereafter. On the day of judgment, the veil of worldly illusions will be lifted. Those who were arrogant and misled others will deny responsibility, attempting to absolve themselves of blame. Meanwhile, those who were oppressed or who blindly followed will try to shift accountability onto their leaders, claiming that they were coerced or deceived. However, neither group will benefit from these exchanges. The arrogant will insist that guidance had reached their followers, and that they chose to reject it, while the followers will accuse the leaders of persistent schemes and manipulation. Yet mutual accusations will not change the reality of divine justice. The lesson is clear. Every individual will be held accountable for their own deeds before Allah, the Exalted. No one will be able to escape responsibility by pointing to another, nor will the excuses of coercion or imitation absolve them of guilt. The same leaders and influences who seemed so powerful in this world will be powerless in the hereafter, and those who followed them will find themselves abandoned. The chains of worldly imitation will become shackles of regret, as both groups realize too late that they are recompensed only for what they themselves chose to do. Chapter 34 Saba, verses 32 to 33.
Those who were arrogant will say to those who were oppressed, "Did we avert you from guidance after it had come to you? Rather, you were criminals." Those who were oppressed will say to those who were arrogant, "Rather, it was your conspiracy of night and day when you were ordering us to disbelieve in Allah and attribute to Him equals." But they will all confide regret when they see the punishment, and we will put shackles on the necks of those who disbelieve. Will they be recompensed except for what they used to do?
This reminder underscores the importance of independent reflection and sincere obedience to Allah, the Exalted. True success lies not in pleasing society or conforming to its fickle standards, but in steadfast adherence to divine guidance. Blind imitation may appear harmless in this world, but it only encourages individuals to misuse the blessings they have been granted. As a result, they will obtain an unbalanced mental and physical state. They will misplace everything and everyone within their life, and they will fail. This will lead to stress, trouble, and difficulties, even if they enjoy some worldly luxuries. In the hereafter, it will yield only regret, for accountability is personal and inescapable. Each person must therefore strive to act with understanding, conviction, and sincerity, ensuring that their deeds are rooted in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, rather than in the shifting opinions of others. The leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca, who stubbornly and childishly rejected Islam despite witnessing its truthfulness, were not unique in their behavior. Their attitude reflects a broader reality. Every person who abandons the divine code of conduct revealed by Allah, the Exalted, and instead embraces man-made systems of conduct, does so in order to gratify worldly desires. This is because all codes devised by human beings are ultimately rooted in human inclinations, ambitions, and self-interest. Unlike the divine law, which is founded upon wisdom, justice, and mercy, man-made systems are shaped by the desires of those who create them, and therefore lack the balance and universality of divine guidance. The wealthy and powerful are often the most entrenched in this mindset. They recognize that accepting the truth of Islam would require submission to a higher moral framework, one that places limits on their pursuit of unchecked desires. Such submission would restrict their exploitation of others, their indulgence in excess, and their misuse of authority. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 34.
And we did not send into a city any warner except that its affluent said, "Indeed we, in that with which you were sent, are disbelievers."
Out of fear of losing their influence and privileges, these elites not only reject the truth themselves, but also actively encourage others to follow their lead. In doing so, they attempt to preserve their worldly status, even at the expense of their eternal well-being. This pattern is not confined to Mecca. It is a recurring theme throughout history. The first to oppose the holy prophets, peace be upon them, were often the elites of society, those who feared that embracing divine guidance would undermine their power and expose their injustices. Their rejection was never due to a lack of evidence or clarity regarding the truth of the message. The signs of Allah, the Exalted, were manifest before them, both in the words of revelation and in the character of the prophets. Rather, their opposition stemmed from arrogance, pride, and the desire to continue living according to their whims. Thus, the rejection of divine guidance is rarely an intellectual dispute about truth or falsehood. It is most often a matter of the heart, a refusal to restrain one's desires and submit to the authority of the Creator. Another reason why people reject or ignore divine guidance is the mistaken belief that worldly blessings are proof of divine love, success, and right guidance. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 35.
And they said, "We are more than the believers in wealth and children, and we are not to be punished."
Such reasoning is deeply flawed. Being granted wealth, status, or children, or conversely, being deprived of them, is not a sign of divine favor or hatred. Rather, it is a test. The true measure lies in whether one shows gratitude by using blessings correctly in accordance with divine teachings, and whether one shows patience during times of difficulty by remaining steadfast in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, without complaint. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 36.
Say, "Indeed, my Lord extends provision for whom He wills and restricts it, but most of the people do not know."
Provision, therefore, is not an indicator of salvation or condemnation. It is a means of testing character. When people confuse worldly abundance with divine approval, they fall into wishful thinking, imagining that their wealth or status guarantees them success in the hereafter. This delusion blinds them to the reality that salvation depends on obedience, not possessions. Conversely, when people face deprivation, they may fall into despair, wrongly assuming that Allah, the Exalted, hates them, regardless of their efforts. The truth is that worldly blessings are temporary and deceptive if misunderstood. They are neither proof of divine love, nor evidence of divine rejection. Their purpose is to test whether individuals remain grateful, patient, and obedient. Those who equate material abundance with eternal success are misled, while those who despair in hardship overlook the wisdom of divine testing. Islam calls people to detach their sense of worth from worldly possessions, and to recognize that true success lies in steadfast obedience to Allah, the Exalted, whether in times of ease or difficulty. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 37.
And it is not your wealth or your children that bring you nearer to us in position, but it is by being one who has believed and done righteousness.
This obedience requires a person to correctly use the blessings they have been granted, in accordance with the teachings of Islam. By doing so, they achieve a balanced mental and physical state, ensuring that everything and everyone in their life is placed in its rightful position. This proper ordering of priorities allows them to prepare adequately for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Such behavior leads to peace of mind in both this world and the hereafter, as it harmonizes the individual's inner condition with their outward responsibilities. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 37.
For them there will be the double reward for what they did, and they will be in the upper chambers of paradise, safe and secure.
This reminder emphasizes that true success lies in using blessings responsibly, not in hoarding or misusing them. When blessings are employed in ways pleasing to Allah, the Exalted, they become a means of both worldly balance and eternal reward. When a person chooses to walk a path different from that of their peers, particularly one rooted in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, it often unsettles those around them. This is because such a choice highlights the inadequacy of decisions made by others who have prioritized personal desires over divine guidance. As a result, criticism is frequently directed at those who remain firm in their faith, sometimes even from their own family members. The pressures of wider society add to this challenge. Social media, fashion, and cultural trends constantly push individuals to conform, and Islamic values are often portrayed as barriers to ambitions of wealth, status, and influence. Industries that thrive on indulgence and excess naturally resist the principles of Islam, since these principles call for moderation, accountability, and restraint. Their opposition fuels anti-Islamic sentiments, which are especially visible across public platforms. Those who strive to live by Islamic teachings, teachings that emphasize moderation in desires and responsible enjoyment of blessings, are often met with hostility from those who indulge without restraint. Islam describes such behavior as animalistic, for it reduces human dignity to mere impulse. These individuals not only reject Islam themselves, but also attempt to dissuade others from practicing it, enticing them into lifestyles defined by unchecked desires. They frequently target specific aspects of Islam, such as the dress code for women, in an effort to undermine its appeal. Yet thoughtful observers recognize the weakness of these criticisms. For instance, while opponents object to Islamic dress codes, they remain silent about the strict uniforms required in professions such as law enforcement, the military, healthcare, education, and business. This selective criticism exposes the superficiality of their arguments. Ultimately, it is Islam's emphasis on discipline and self-restraint that provokes such attacks, as these principles challenge indulgence and excess. In every circumstance, the individual must remain unwavering in obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Such loyalty ensures serenity and protection from harmful influences, even if this protection is not immediately apparent. By correctly using the blessings granted to them, they achieve a balanced mental and physical state, rightly ordering all aspects of their life while preparing for accountability on the Day of Judgment. This obedience fosters tranquility in both worlds, guiding them through ease and adversity alike, and securing boundless reward. By contrast, those who ignore divine commands in pursuit of societal approval inevitably lose inner peace. Their misuse of blessings leads to disorder, misplaced priorities, and neglect of preparation for the hereafter. This results in stress, hardship, and difficulty in both worlds, regardless of the material comforts they may enjoy. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 38.
And the ones who strive against our verses to cause them failure, those will be brought into the punishment.
To preserve a firm and unwavering mindset, it is essential that a person cultivates strong faith. Such faith serves as the anchor that keeps one devoted to Allah, the Exalted, in every circumstance, whether in times of ease or in moments of hardship. It is not something that develops by chance. Rather, it is nurtured through careful study, deep reflection, and consistent application of the clear guidance found in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. These sources make plain that sincere obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is the path to tranquility in this life, and eternal serenity in the hereafter. By contrast, those who remain ignorant of divine principles possess a fragile and unstable faith. When their personal desires clash with divine guidance, they are easily swayed, for they lack the knowledge and conviction needed to resist temptation. Their misunderstanding blinds them to the truth that surrendering one's desires in favor of the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, is the only way to achieve lasting peace in both worlds. For this reason, individuals must actively strengthen their faith by seeking knowledge and putting it into practice. Faith is not sustained by words alone, but by living in accordance with divine instruction. When a person uses the blessings they have been granted in line with Allah's guidance, they establish balance within themselves, mentally and physically, and they rightly order all aspects of their life. This disciplined approach ensures that they remain prepared for accountability on the Day of Judgment. The outcome of such obedience is success in both realms. In this world, it brings peace of mind, stability, and harmony. In the hereafter, it secures eternal reward and safety. Strong faith, therefore, is the shield against misguidance, the light that illuminates the path of righteousness, and the foundation upon which true tranquility and success are built. Allah, the Exalted, addresses those who resist Islam out of fear of losing their worldly possessions, such as influence, wealth, and leadership, by reminding them that He alone is the provider for all creation. Their fear is misplaced, for no amount of effort or opposition can alter the reality that provision is entirely under His control. The blessings they enjoy are not the result of their own power or authority, but are granted by Allah, the Exalted, according to His wisdom. The only way to ensure that these blessings become a source of comfort in both this world and the hereafter is to employ them in obedience to Him. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 39.
Say, indeed, my Lord extends provision for whom He wills of His servants and restricts it for him. But whatever thing you spend correctly, He will compensate it.
This verse highlights the reality that provision is not fixed by human effort, but by divine decree. When blessings are used in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, they become a source of peace, stability, and growth. Wealth, influence, and leadership, when directed toward righteousness, bring comfort to the individual and benefit to society. They serve as tools for building justice, supporting the needy, and spreading goodness. In this way, worldly possessions are transformed into means of eternal reward. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 39.
And He is the best of providers.
By contrast, when blessings are misused, dedicated to opposing Islam or indulging in arrogance, they lose their value. Such misuse leads to waste, for no matter how much effort is expended, it cannot overcome the will of Allah, the Exalted. Those who persist in dedicating their wealth, influence, and resources to resisting divine guidance will ultimately find themselves defeated. Their efforts, no matter how grand or organized, cannot prevail against the Creator of the heavens and the earth. They may appear powerful in the eyes of people, but their opposition only leads to loss. Their wealth will not protect them, their influence will not shield them, and their leadership will not save them. Instead, their misuse of blessings will become a source of regret, as they realize that what they spent in defiance of Allah, the Exalted, brought them no benefit. Their opposition will be exposed as futile, and their worldly pursuits will crumble, leaving them empty-handed in both worlds. This reminder underscores a timeless truth. Worldly possessions are not safeguarded by clinging to them in defiance of divine law, but by surrendering them to the service of Allah, the Exalted. When blessings are used in obedience, they become a source of tranquility, growth, and eternal reward. When they are used in opposition, they become a burden, a cause of regret, and a path to destruction. The wise person therefore recognizes that provision is not a guarantee of success in itself, but a test of how it is used. By dedicating their blessings to the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, they secure peace in this life and safety in the hereafter. Throughout history, many non-Muslims have failed to comprehend the divine attributes of Allah, the Exalted. Instead of recognizing His absolute independence, perfection, and sovereignty, they imagined Him to be like a worldly monarch who requires supporters to manage His kingdom. This misconception arose because they measured the Creator by the standards of creation, assuming that just as earthly rulers rely on ministers, guards, and advisors, Allah, the Exalted, must also depend on others to maintain His authority. As a result, they developed false notions about His nature, failing to understand that He is entirely self-sufficient, free of need, and independent of all creation. This misunderstanding led them to misdirect their worship, believing that they could gain favor by turning to intermediaries, rather than submitting directly to Allah, the Exalted. This false belief manifested clearly among the non-Muslims of Mecca, who began worshipping those they perceived as supporters of Allah, the Exalted, such as angels or saints. They claimed that these figures would intercede for them in the court of Allah, the Exalted, and thus excused themselves from direct obedience. In reality, this was a lazy and misguided attitude, as it allowed them to persist in disobedience while falsely assuming that someone else would save them on the Day of Judgment. The Holy Quran repeatedly corrects this misconception by emphasizing the divine attributes of Allah, the Exalted, which make Him entirely independent of supporters. He alone governs the universe without assistance, and He alone will judge every soul. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 40.
And mention the day when He will gather them all and then say to the angels, "Did these people used to worship you?"
The angels will testify that they were never benefactors to these people, for they themselves are nothing but servants of Allah, the Exalted. Their testimony will make clear that worship belongs solely to Allah, the Exalted, and that those who directed their devotion elsewhere were gravely mistaken. Chapter 34 Saba, verses 41 to 42.
They will say, "Glorified are you. You are our benefactor, not them. Rather, they used to worship the jinn, most of them were believers in them. But today you do not hold for one another the power of benefit or harm, and we will say to those who wronged, taste the punishment of the fire which you used to deny."
These verses reveal that those whom people sought to please, whether angels, holy prophets, peace be upon them, or saints, will dissociate themselves from such worshippers. This reminder underscores the futility of relying on intermediaries, and the danger of assuming that others can save one from divine accountability. It emphasizes that every individual is responsible for their own deeds, and that salvation lies only in sincere obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Those who persist in worshipping others will find themselves abandoned on the Day of Judgment, as those they sought to please will turn against them and declare their innocence. The lesson is clear: worship must be directed solely to Allah, the Exalted, who is free of need and who alone holds power over benefit and harm. Obeying Allah, the Exalted, and preparing for one's accountability often stands in direct contradiction to the worldly desires of people. For this reason, many persist in disobedience, just as the leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca did, despite recognizing the truthfulness of Islam. Their rejection was not born of ignorance, but of arrogance and fear of losing their worldly influence. As discussed earlier, the leaders of Mecca employed various strategies to discourage others from accepting Islam. Their primary concern was the preservation of their leadership and social standing. One of their methods was to encourage people to cling to the customs of their forefathers, not because these customs were rooted in knowledge or evidence, but simply out of blind loyalty. They argued that Islam was an attempt to divert people from ancestral traditions. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 43.
And when our verses are recited to them as clear evidences, they say, "This is not but a man who wishes to avert you from that which your fathers were worshipping."
This highlights the danger of blind imitation. One must avoid following others without reflection, for the majority behavior within society often leads to disobedience of Allah, the Exalted. When individuals see the majority ignoring divine guidance, they may assume that the majority must be correct and follow them without thought. Yet history has repeatedly shown that majority opinion is not always aligned with truth. For example, the widespread belief that the earth was flat was later proven false with new evidence and knowledge. Blind conformity, whether in secular or spiritual matters, often leads to misguided choices. Chapter 6 Al-An'am, verse 116.
And if you obey most of those upon the earth, they will mislead you from the way of Allah. They follow not except assumption, and they are not but guessing.
Instead of unthinking conformity, individuals are commanded to employ the reasoning and intellect bestowed upon them by Allah, the Exalted. Each circumstance must be evaluated based on knowledge and evidence, allowing decisions to be made with understanding, even if they diverge from the prevailing opinions of the majority. Islam strongly criticizes blind imitation in religious matters, precisely because it leads to error and misguidance. For this reason, Islam encourages people to learn, reflect, and act upon divine teachings with comprehension, ensuring that their obedience is rooted in conviction rather than assumption. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, "This is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me."
This reminder emphasizes that true guidance lies not in the majority, but in the clear signs of Allah, the Exalted. Those who use their intellect to understand and apply His teachings will remain steadfast, while those who blindly follow others risk being led astray. Another tactic employed by the leaders of the non-Muslims of Mecca was to claim that the Holy Quran was not authored by Allah, the Exalted, but rather fabricated by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 43.
And they say, "This is not except a lie invented."
This claim was particularly hollow given the fact that the non-Muslims of Mecca were masters of the Arabic language. They knew, through their own expertise, that the Holy Quran could not be the words of a created being. Its eloquence, depth, and unmatched style were beyond human capacity, and they recognized that no poet, scholar, or orator among them could produce anything comparable. Their accusation was therefore not born of genuine doubt, but of arrogance and fear of losing their influence. Furthermore, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, had no interaction with previous divine scriptures. This truth was acknowledged not only by the people of the book, but also by the non-Muslims of Mecca themselves, who had lived alongside him for 40 years prior to his prophethood. They knew he had not studied earlier revelations, nor had he been taught by scholars of scripture. Chapter 29 Al-Ankabut, verse 48.
And you did not recite before it any scripture, nor did you inscribe one with your right hand. Then, i.e., otherwise the falsifiers would have had cause for doubt.
This verse highlights the miraculous nature of the Holy Quran. Had the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, been known to study or write previous scriptures, the disbelievers could have claimed that he borrowed or adapted from them. Yet his complete lack of interaction with such texts removes any possibility of doubt. The Holy Quran's content, its correction of distortions in earlier revelations, its profound wisdom, and its unmatched eloquence, could only have come from Allah, the Exalted. Thus, the accusation that the Holy Quran was fabricated collapses under scrutiny. It was not ignorance that led the leaders of Mecca to make such claims, but pride, fear, and the desire to preserve their worldly authority. The Holy Quran itself stands as the clearest evidence of divine origin, a revelation that no human being could invent. Generally speaking, the Holy Quran stands as the most eloquent and unparalleled book in human history. Its expressions are unique, its style is flawless, and its meanings are conveyed with clarity and precision. Unlike human writings, which are often filled with contradictions, exaggerations, or inconsistencies, the Holy Quran is free from all error. Every verse is purposeful, every word is perfectly placed, and its guidance is timeless. No other book can rival its eloquence, or its ability to speak directly to the human heart and mind. The Holy Quran recounts the history of past nations in detail, despite the fact that the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was not educated in history nor had access to earlier scriptures. This itself is a sign of its divine origin. It commands every form of good and forbids every form of evil, addressing matters that affect both individuals and entire societies. Its teachings establish justice, spread peace, and ensure security within homes and communities. Unlike poetry, fables, or stories, the Holy Quran avoids exaggeration, falsehood, or fabrication. Every verse is beneficial, practical, and relevant to daily life. Even when the same account is repeated, new lessons are drawn out, ensuring that the reader never tires of its study. The Holy Quran provides promises and warnings, each supported by clear and undeniable proofs. When it discusses concepts that may seem abstract, such as patience, gratitude, or humility, it always provides simple and practical ways to implement them in life. It encourages people to fulfill the very purpose of their creation: sincere obedience to Allah, the Exalted. This obedience involves using the blessings granted by Him in ways that please Him, thereby ensuring peace of mind and success in both worlds. Through this guidance, individuals achieve balance in their mental and physical state, place everything and everyone in their rightful position, and prepare adequately for accountability on the Day of Judgment. The Holy Quran makes the straight path obvious and appealing to those who desire true success. Because it addresses the very nature of human beings, its guidance is timeless, benefiting every person, every place, and every generation. It is a cure for emotional, economic, and physical difficulties when understood and applied correctly. It provides solutions for every problem faced by individuals and societies alike. History itself testifies to this, as communities that implemented its teachings prospered in justice, peace, and stability. Centuries have passed, yet not a single letter of the Holy Quran has been altered. Chapter 15 Al-Hijr, verse 9.
Indeed, it is we who sent down the message, i.e. the Quran, and indeed we will be its guardian.
Allah, the Exalted, addresses the root problems within communities and provides practical remedies. By correcting these root issues, the countless branch problems that stem from them are automatically resolved. This comprehensive approach is how the Holy Quran provides all that is needed for success in both worlds. Chapter 16 An-Nahl, verse 89.
And we have sent down to you the book as clarification for all things.
This is the greatest timeless miracle bestowed upon the final Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Yet only those who sincerely seek and act upon the truth will benefit from it. Those who pursue their desires and selectively apply its teachings will ultimately encounter loss in both this world and the hereafter. Chapter 17 Al-Isra, verse 82.
And we send down of the Quran that which is healing and mercy for the believers, but it does not increase the wrongdoers except in loss.
Thus, the Holy Quran is not merely a book of guidance but a living miracle. Eloquent in language, comprehensive in teaching, practical in application, and eternal in preservation. It is the ultimate source of peace, justice, and success for anyone who approaches it with sincerity. Another tactic employed by the non-Muslims of Mecca to discourage people from accepting Islam was to accuse the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, of being a magician and to claim that the Holy Quran was nothing more than sorcery. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 43.
And those who disbelieve say of the truth when it has come to them, this is not but obvious magic.
This was a profoundly foolish claim. The non-Muslims of Mecca had lived alongside the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, for decades. They knew his character intimately and recognized that he did not possess the traits of a magician, sorcerer, or soothsayer. His conduct was the opposite of theirs. He was truthful, dignified, and consistent, while magicians and soothsayers were known for deception, trickery, and inconsistency. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was renowned for his honesty and integrity, earning the title the Trustworthy long before his prophethood. Furthermore, the leaders of Mecca were masters of poetry and eloquence. They were fully aware that the Holy Quran was not poetry, incantations, or riddles. Its style was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It was neither bound by the structures of poetry, nor limited by the devices of sorcery. Its words carried unmatched depth, clarity, and power, addressing the human heart and intellect in ways no human composition could achieve. They recognized that the Holy Quran was beyond human capacity, yet out of arrogance and fear of losing their influence, they resorted to dismissing it as magic. Their accusation reveals the desperation of those who reject truth despite recognizing it. Unable to deny the Holy Quran's eloquence or the flawless character of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, they resorted to false labels in order to confuse others and preserve their worldly authority. In reality, their claim only highlights the miraculous nature of the Holy Quran and the purity of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Allah, the Exalted, condemns the conduct adopted by the non-Muslims of Arabia, highlighting that it was neither grounded in knowledge nor supported by evidence or logic. Their way of life was not derived from divine revelation, but was instead built upon assumptions, customs, and desires. This criticism applies universally to every generation that abandons the guidance of Allah, the Exalted, and replaces it with man-made systems. Chapter 34, Saba, verse 44.
And we had not given them any scriptures which they could study, and we had not sent to them before you any warner.
This verse demonstrates that their rejection of Islam was not based on any competing revelation or intellectual foundation. Rather, it was rooted in their own whims and worldly inclinations. In truth, whenever people abandon the divine code of conduct revealed by Allah, the Exalted, and adopt systems devised by human beings, they do so to gratify their desires. Human-devised laws and codes are inevitably shaped by ambition, self-interest, and personal inclinations. Unlike divine law, which is founded upon wisdom, justice, and mercy, man-made systems reflect the desires of those who create them. The wealthy and powerful are often the most resistant to divine guidance, for they recognize that accepting Islam would require submission to a higher moral framework. Such submission would place limits on their exploitation of others, their indulgence in excess, and their misuse of authority. Out of fear of losing influence and privilege, they not only reject the truth themselves but also actively encourage others to follow their lead, thereby attempting to preserve their worldly status at the expense of their eternal well-being. This pattern has repeated itself throughout history. The first to oppose the holy prophets, peace be upon them, were often the elites of society, those who feared that embracing divine guidance would undermine their power and expose their injustices. Their rejection was not due to a lack of evidence, for the signs of Allah, the Exalted, were clear and manifest before them. Rather, their opposition stemmed from arrogance, pride, and the desire to continue living according to their whims. Thus, the rejection of divine guidance is rarely an intellectual dispute about truth and falsehood. More often, it is a matter of the heart, a refusal to restrain one's desires and submit to the authority of the Creator. Pride blinds people to wisdom, and indulgence in worldly ambition prevents them from recognizing the justice and mercy inherent in divine law. By choosing man-made codes over divine revelation, they sacrifice eternal success for temporary gain, a choice that ultimately leads to ruin. Allah, the Exalted, calls upon people to reflect on the fate of the great nations that came before them, nations that attained levels of power, wealth, and influence far beyond anything their successors could ever reach. Chapter 34, Saba, verse 45.
And those before them denied, and they have not attained a tenth of what we had given the people before them.
This verse highlights that even the most powerful civilizations, with their immense riches and authority, were ultimately powerless when they chose to disobey Allah, the Exalted. Their worldly blessings, which they misused in arrogance and indulgence, became a source of stress and misery rather than comfort. Instead of bringing them peace, their wealth and influence led them into imbalance, distorting their mental and physical state, and causing them to misplace everything and everyone within their lives. This same reality can be observed today among people of luxury, such as celebrities, whose indulgence in excess often results in instability, anxiety, and emptiness despite their apparent success. Because these nations failed to prepare for accountability on the Day of Judgment, their punishment in the hereafter will be far more severe than the hardships they faced in this world. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 45.
But the former peoples denied my messengers, so how terrible was my reproach.
This reminder underscores a timeless truth. Worldly power and wealth cannot shield anyone from divine justice. When blessings are misused, they become a burden rather than a source of peace. True success lies not in the accumulation of riches or influence, but in obedience to Allah, the Exalted, and the responsible use of His blessings. Those who fail to recognize this reality will find that their worldly pursuits only lead to regret, while those who prepare for accountability will secure tranquility in both worlds. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 45.
And those before them denied, and they have not attained a tenth of what we had given the people before them. But the former peoples denied my messengers, so how terrible was my reproach.
This verse serves as a powerful reminder against falling into a self-absorbed way of life, in which a person's attention becomes confined solely to their own immediate circumstances while they overlook the greater realities unfolding around them. Such a restricted perspective narrows the heart and mind, preventing a person from recognizing the profound lessons present in the world, whether in historical events, personal trials, or the experiences of others. When a person remains fixated only on their own situation, they lose the ability to see the broader patterns of wisdom that Allah, the Exalted, has woven into creation. Reflecting upon these wider lessons is one of the most effective methods for refining character, avoiding repeated mistakes, and achieving lasting inner peace. Through careful reflection, a person gradually attains a balanced mental and physical state, and learns to correctly place everything and everyone within their life according to proper priority and purpose. This balanced outlook not only nurtures humility, but also strengthens emotional resilience, enabling a person to respond to life's difficulties with greater patience, perspective, and clarity. For example, observing how the wealthy and renowned misuse the blessings they have been granted, only to become overtaken by anxiety, depression, addiction, or even suicide despite their comforts, teaches a powerful truth. Genuine tranquility cannot be purchased with wealth, nor can it be achieved through the pursuit of unchecked desires. Material success, when detached from gratitude and moral discipline, becomes a burden rather than a source of fulfillment. This contrast reveals that true contentment stems from a disciplined heart, a clear sense of purpose, and a relationship with Allah, the Exalted, rather than from external achievements or possessions. Similarly, witnessing someone struggle with illness should awaken deep gratitude within a person for the gift of their own health. It should motivate them to use this blessing properly, engage in beneficial acts, and avoid wasting their strength on harmful or meaningless pursuits before it eventually slips away. Illness in others becomes a mirror that shows the fragility of human life, reminding every person that the blessings they enjoy today are neither guaranteed nor permanent. Islam therefore encourages a person to remain mindful, observant, and reflective. It calls them to look beyond the narrow lens of their own condition, and to extract wisdom from the countless signs present in the world around them. Whether through the rise and fall of nations, the emotional struggles of the wealthy, the patience of the oppressed, or the trials of the sick, every situation carries a lesson for the one who chooses to reflect. By learning from these realities, a person gradually develops a heart that is thoughtful, grateful, and balanced, one that remains steadfast in times of ease and resilient in times of hardship. Such reflection transforms one's way of living. It nurtures compassion, deepens spiritual awareness, and anchors a person to principles that guide them through both prosperity and adversity. In this way, the broader perspective encouraged by Islam becomes a means of continuous self-improvement and a path toward true success in both this world and the next. Islam distinguishes itself from all other ways of life by rejecting blind imitation and passive conformity. It does not ask people to simply follow traditions or the majority without thought. Instead, it calls upon every individual to use the intellect and common sense that Allah, the Exalted, has granted them. The path to truth is not through compulsion or inherited customs, but through sincere reflection and study. Islam invites people to examine its teachings with an open and unbiased mind, to observe the signs that prove its authenticity, and then to make their own choice regarding their way of life. This ensures that faith is rooted in conviction, not habit, and obedience arises from understanding, not coercion. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 46.
Say, I only advise you of one thing, that you stand for Allah, seeking truth in pairs and individually, and then give thought.
This verse highlights the importance of independent reflection. It calls upon people to pause, to stand sincerely for Allah, the Exalted, whether alone or in discussion with others, and to think deeply about the signs before them. The truth of Islam becomes evident to those who approach it with honesty and fairness, free from prejudice or blind loyalty to inherited customs. By encouraging reflection rather than compulsion, Islam safeguards human dignity and ensures that belief is genuine. Blind following has always been a source of misguidance. History is filled with examples of societies that clung to traditions simply because they were inherited, even when those traditions were unjust or irrational. The leaders of Mecca themselves used this tactic, urging people to hold onto the practices of their forefathers as a way of resisting Islam. Yet Allah, the Exalted, makes clear that truth is not determined by numbers or customs, but by evidence and revelation. Islam therefore criticizes blind imitation in religious matters, reminding people that true guidance requires conscious choice and thoughtful reflection. This approach makes Islam timeless. Its teachings remain relevant to every generation, because they appeal to both the intellect and the heart. By inviting people to think for themselves, Islam ensures that its followers are not merely conforming, but are actively choosing obedience to Allah, the Exalted. This conscious choice strengthens faith, as it is built upon understanding and conviction rather than assumption. Moreover, this principle protects individuals from being misled by majority opinion. The majority is not always correct, as history has shown. Widespread beliefs, such as the notion that the earth was flat, were later proven false. Similarly, societal norms that contradict divine guidance often lead to corruption and injustice. Islam warns against following the majority blindly, urging individuals instead to use their intellect to evaluate each matter based on knowledge and evidence. Ultimately, Islam's call to reflection ensures that faith is sincere, obedience is meaningful, and guidance is secure. It makes the straight path clear and appealing to those who desire peace of mind and success in both worlds. By addressing the very nature of human beings, it provides timeless advice that benefits every person, place, and generation. Those who approach the teachings of Islam with sincerity, reflection, and an unbiased mind inevitably recognize the truth of its message. They come to understand that the accusations and slander directed against the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and the Holy Quran throughout history are baseless. Such claims have always been made by people desperate to cling to their worldly desires, unwilling to restrain themselves or submit to the authority of Allah, the Exalted. Yet when examined with fairness, these accusations collapse under the weight of evidence, while the warnings of Islam, such as the certainty of the Day of Judgment, stand firm as undeniable realities. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 46.
There is not in your companion any madness. He is only a warner to you, before a severe punishment.
Accusations against divine guidance are not rooted in evidence but in arrogance and desire. Those who reflect sincerely will see through these claims and recognize that the warnings of Islam are inevitable realities. The Day of Judgment is certain, and the role of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was to prepare humanity for it by delivering the truth clearly and compassionately. Allah, the Exalted, makes clear that the sincerity of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, left the non-Muslims of Mecca, and indeed all people after them, with little justification for rejecting divine guidance. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 47.
Say, whatever payment I might have asked of you, it is yours. My payment is only from Allah.
This verse highlights the purity of the prophetic mission. Unlike worldly systems of life, which always demand something from others, whether wealth, attention, or even their freedom to think independently, Islam does not burden people with such demands. Allah, the Exalted, requires nothing from His creation for the guidance He has provided. Every command, prohibition, and piece of advice in the Holy Quran is designed solely for the benefit of humanity, even if its wisdom is not immediately apparent. Just as a patient may not fully appreciate the treatment plan prescribed by a doctor, yet it is for their well-being, so too the divine commands are for the health of the soul and the success of both the individual and society. The sincerity of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was undeniable. His life was a testimony of truthfulness, his character a model of integrity, and his mission free from any worldly motive. He sought no payment, no recognition, and no personal gain. His only concern was the salvation of his people. He called them to obey Allah, the Exalted, and to use the blessings they had been granted in ways pleasing to Him. By following divine guidance, they would achieve peace of mind in both worlds, attaining balance in their mental and physical state, placing everything and everyone in their rightful position, and preparing adequately for accountability on the Day of Judgment. This reality was evident to the non-Muslims of Mecca, and to those who came after them. They could not reasonably deny his sincerity, yet many persisted in disobedience. The reason was not ignorance of the truth, but the contradiction between divine obedience and worldly desires. Submission to Allah, the Exalted, requires restraint, humility, and discipline, qualities that many were unwilling to embrace. Thus, despite recognizing the truthfulness of Islam, they chose to reject it. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 47.
And He is, over all things, witness.
This declaration affirms that Allah, the Exalted, is fully aware of those who reject Islam despite recognizing its truth. He witnesses their denial, their motives, and their actions, and He will hold them accountable accordingly. Their rejection is not hidden, nor will it go unpunished. The sincerity of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, removes every excuse, leaving only arrogance and desire as the cause of disbelief. This passage therefore teaches that divine guidance is a gift, free of worldly demands, and that the sincerity of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is itself a proof of Islam. Those who reject despite recognizing the truth will face accountability, for Allah, the Exalted, is the ultimate witness over all things. Allah, the Exalted, further reminds all people that because He alone possesses complete and perfect knowledge, He alone is in the rightful position to provide a code of conduct that guides a person toward peace of mind on an individual level and toward peace and justice on a societal level. No matter how advanced a society becomes, and regardless of the knowledge it gains in various fields, including knowledge of the mental and physical aspects of people, it remains entirely beyond human capability to formulate a code of conduct that is fully aligned with human nature and capable of addressing every circumstance, condition, and scenario that individuals or societies may experience throughout their existence on Earth. This limitation is inherent and unavoidable. Humanity continues to uncover new discoveries about specific dimensions of human existence, such as the functions at different regions of the human brain. Yet these findings represent only a small portion of the vast reality that remains unknown. Given these constraints, it is impossible for human beings to acquire enough understanding to construct an impeccable, universally applicable code of conduct that brings about true tranquility and justice both individually and collectively. Only Allah, the Exalted, possesses the ability to provide such comprehensive guidance, for He is the creator of all things, and His knowledge is limitless, encompassing the entirety of the past, present, and future without restriction. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 47.
Say, indeed my Lord projects the truth, knower of the unseen.
Since Allah, the Exalted, alone possesses perfect knowledge of all realities, past, present, and future, He alone is qualified to provide humanity with a flawless code of conduct. This divine standard distinguishes good from evil, benefit from harm, and peace of mind from a life consumed by anxiety and imbalance. Unlike human-devised systems, which are shaped by limited understanding and personal interests, the divine code of conduct is rooted in wisdom, justice, and mercy. It is designed to guide individuals and societies toward true success. History itself testifies to this truth. Whenever divine guidance was sincerely implemented, it transformed lives and communities. Tranquility spread among individuals, justice was established, harmony prevailed, and genuine social cohesion flourished. People lived with a heightened sense of purpose, families were strengthened, and societies prospered in fairness and compassion. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 49.
Say, the truth has come, and falsehood can neither begin anything good nor repeat it.
This verse reminds humanity that divine truth is enduring and self-sufficient, while falsehood is powerless to produce lasting benefit. Man-made systems may appear appealing for a time, but they inevitably collapse under the weight of injustice, imbalance, and contradiction. Only the divine code of conduct provides stability and peace across generations. Therefore, individuals must recognize the necessity of embracing the guidance Allah, the Exalted, has granted. They should understand that this guidance is fundamentally in their best interest, even when certain aspects challenge their desires or assumptions. Submission to divine wisdom requires humility and trust, acknowledging that Allah, the Exalted, knows what benefits His creation better than they know themselves. The approach to divine guidance should mirror that of a wise patient who trusts the medical advice of a skilled physician. Even when the treatment involves bitter medicine or a restrictive diet, the patient complies, knowing that the physician's goal is to restore health and well-being. In the same way, obedience to Allah, the Exalted, may sometimes feel difficult or contrary to personal inclinations, but it is ultimately the path to inner tranquility, balanced living, and enduring justice within society. This analogy demonstrates that divine guidance is not a burden, but a cure. It heals the soul, disciplines the body, and establishes fairness in human relationships. By submitting to Allah, the Exalted, individuals gain access to the most complete and reliable framework for success in both worlds. Allah, the Exalted, warns people that if they choose to behave like the unwise patient who rejects the medical advice of their doctor, by persisting in disobedience and misusing the blessings He has granted them, then their misjudgment will only harm themselves. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 50.
Say, if I should err, I would only err against myself.
This verse highlights that the consequences of rejecting divine guidance are not borne by Allah, the Exalted, but by the individual who chooses to disobey. In this world, such an attitude prevents a person from achieving a balanced mental and physical state. It causes them to misplace everything and everyone within their life, leading to disorder and confusion. As a result, the very things they value, family, friends, career, and wealth, become sources of stress rather than comfort. When people persist in disobedience, they often misdirect blame. Instead of recognizing that their own misuse of blessings is the root cause of their distress, they blame others around them, such as their spouse or close companions. Cutting these good people out of their lives only deepens their imbalance, increasing mental disorders and driving them toward destructive paths such as depression, substance addiction, and even suicidal tendencies. This outcome is evident when one observes those who misuse their blessings today, such as the rich and famous. Despite enjoying worldly luxuries, many of them live in turmoil, proving that indulgence without obedience leads only to misery. Furthermore, their refusal to obey Allah, the Exalted, prevents them from preparing for accountability on the Day of Judgment. As a result, their punishment in the hereafter will be far worse than the stress and disorder they experienced in this world. By contrast, those who behave like the wise patient, who accepts and acts upon the medical advice of their doctor, even when prescribed bitter medicine, are those who obey Allah, the Exalted. They correctly use the blessings He has granted them according to Islamic teachings, even when this requires restraint or sacrifice. Such obedience leads to peace of mind in both worlds. They achieve balance in their mental and physical state, place everything and everyone in their rightful position, and prepare adequately for their accountability before Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 50.
But if I am guided, it is by what my Lord reveals to me.
As Allah, the Exalted, encompasses all the affairs of people, these two very different outcomes are inevitable. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 50.
Indeed, He is hearing and near.
Those who fail to recognize the truth and persist in disobeying Allah, the Exalted, should not be deceived into thinking they will escape the consequences of their actions simply because they have not yet faced them. The delay of punishment is not a sign of approval, but a test of patience. Just as those before them eventually faced the outcome of their deeds, every person will inevitably confront the consequences of their choices, even if this seems distant or impossible. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 51.
And if you could see when they are terrified, but there is no escape, and they will be seized from a place nearby.
This verse paints a vivid picture of the day when denial will no longer be possible. Those who rejected divine guidance will be overwhelmed with terror, realizing that there is no escape from accountability. They will be seized suddenly, with no opportunity to flee or resist. On the day of judgment, those who persisted in rejecting Islam or failed to act upon its teachings, because obedience contradicted their worldly desires and ambitions, will finally declare their belief and submission to Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 52.
And they will then say, "We believe in it."
Yet this declaration will be futile. Faith and repentance are only accepted in this world, where belief in the unseen is the essence of true conviction. Once the realities of the hereafter, judgment day, hell and paradise are laid bare before them, belief will no longer be a matter of faith but of forced recognition. At that point, acceptance will carry no value, for the time to submit was during worldly life. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 52.
But how for them will be the taking of faith from a place far away.
The lesson is profound. Delaying obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is a dangerous illusion. The unseen realities have already been revealed through divine guidance, and the responsibility lies upon each person to act now. Those who wait until the truth is undeniable will find that their repentance comes too late, and their regret will not save them from the consequences of their actions. In addition, in this world, a person is judged as a Muslim by the law according to their verbal declaration of faith, for human beings can only judge what is outwardly expressed. Yet in the hereafter, Allah, the Exalted, will judge each person according to their inward reality, which is hidden from others. This distinction is crucial. Worldly law operates on appearances, but divine judgment penetrates the heart. Therefore, someone who verbally claims belief in Allah, the Exalted, and accountability in the hereafter, but fails to support this declaration with actions, may not possess true faith within their heart. On the day of judgment, such a person will be treated as a non-Muslim, even if the law considered them a Muslim in this world. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 53.
And they had already disbelieved in it before.
This verse warns that verbal claims without sincere obedience are insufficient. Faith must be nurtured and sustained through good deeds. It is akin to a plant that requires sunlight, water, and care to survive. Just as a plant deprived of these essentials will wither and die, so too a person's faith will wither if not nourished by acts of obedience. Neglecting this responsibility places one in grave danger of losing faith before death, resulting in the most profound loss. This outcome often arises when individuals live by false assumptions not rooted in knowledge or evidence. Many assume that salvation is guaranteed simply because they have verbally accepted Islam, without realizing that faith requires action, sincerity, and obedience. Such assumptions are not only inaccurate, but dangerously misleading. They lead people away from the Islamic code of conduct, which alone ensures peace of mind in both worlds, through achieving balance in mental and physical states and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 53.
And they would throw assumptions in the unseen from a place far away, from right guidance.
As a result of their misguided assumptions, such individuals, just like the misguided people before them, will not attain the salvation, peace of mind, and high ranks in paradise that they assumed would automatically be granted to them based solely on their verbal declaration of faith, despite failing to support that declaration with righteous and sincere actions. Many throughout history have fallen into this same illusion, believing that mere association with faith, identity, or community was sufficient for divine success. They neglected to understand that Allah, the Exalted, established clear criteria for salvation that require the combination of belief and action. Their hopes were built on false foundations, And when the truth of their situation becomes manifest on Judgment Day, they will find a barrier placed between them and everything they desired, paradise, peace, and nearness to Allah the Exalted. This outcome is in complete alignment with the pattern seen in former communities, who also assumed entitlement to divine reward, without fulfilling the responsibilities of faith. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 54.
And prevention will be placed between them and what they desire, as was done with their kind before.
One of the major causes of adopting such false and destructive assumptions is weak faith, a condition in which a person remains unaware or negligent of the Islamic teachings that consistently and repeatedly emphasize the necessity of strengthening one's claim to faith through righteous deeds. Weak faith allows doubt, hesitation, and confusion to settle into the heart, making a person vulnerable to delusions about their spiritual condition. Instead of viewing obedience as an essential requirement, they begin to treat it as optional, and instead of viewing sin as harmful, they begin to justify or downplay its effects. Their ignorance of fundamental principles, such as accountability, divine justice, and the spiritual consequences of actions, leads them to remain in a state of uneasy uncertainty. This state is neither peaceful nor fulfilling, for the heart is naturally unsettled when disconnected from truth. Chapter 34 Saba, verse 54.
Indeed, they were in suspicious and disquieting doubt.
To avoid such a destructive outcome, a person must therefore strive to develop strong, unwavering faith. Strong faith is not accidental. It is cultivated through deliberate effort and conscious engagement with divine guidance. It serves as the foundation for consistent obedience to Allah, the Exalted, enabling a person to remain firm in every situation, whether in times of ease, when comfort can lead to negligence, or in times of hardship, when pain can lead to impatience. This deep and resilient faith is nurtured by understanding, reflecting upon, and implementing the clear signs and teachings found in the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. These divine teachings make it unmistakably clear that true obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is what brings tranquility, purpose, and inner stability in this world, and ultimate joy and success in the next. They show that faith without action is incomplete, and action without sincerity is insufficient. When these teachings settle in the heart, faith becomes a source of strength that guides every decision and shields a person from spiritual decline. Conversely, those who lack knowledge of Islamic principles inevitably possess weak and unstable faith, making them far more susceptible to drifting away from obedience, especially when their personal desires clash with divine guidance. Without correct understanding, a person easily becomes enslaved to impulsive emotions, worldly attractions, and social pressures. This weak foundation blinds them to the fact that surrendering their desires in favor of the commands of Allah, the Exalted, is the true path to peace, stability, and spiritual freedom. Instead of recognizing obedience as a cure, they may perceive it as a burden. Instead of viewing divine limits as protection, they may view them as restrictions. Such misunderstandings prevent them from seeing that genuine peace arises not from fulfilling every desire, but from disciplining those desires and aligning them with divine wisdom. Their lack of knowledge allows harmful habits to feel normal, excessive indulgence to feel justified, and life's blessings to be taken for granted, all of which deepen their distance from Allah, the Exalted, and intensify their inner unrest. Therefore, it is essential for individuals to strengthen their faith through the pursuit of Islamic knowledge and its practical application. Knowledge alone is not enough. It must be lived, internalized, and reflected in behavior. Through this process, a person develops insight, maturity, and spiritual clarity, which help them remain obedient to Allah, the Exalted, in all circumstances. Strengthened faith guides a person to correctly utilize the blessings they have been granted, such as wealth, health, time, intellect, and relationships, in the manner outlined by Islamic teachings. This alignment with divine wisdom allows them to achieve a balanced mental and physical state, grounded in gratitude, discipline, and purposeful living. As their priorities become properly ordered, they place everything and everyone in their life in its rightful place, leading not only to personal peace, but also to a life that is meaningful, productive, and spiritually fulfilled. To conclude, a person must accept and act upon Islamic teachings for their own sake, even when those teachings contradict their personal desires or inclinations. This attitude mirrors that of a wise patient who sincerely wishes to recover from illness. Such a patient places their full trust in the expertise of their doctor, knowing that the prescribed course of treatment, although it may include bitter medicines, physical discomfort, and a strict diet, is ultimately designed for their well-being. The patient does not insist on indulging every craving or avoiding every inconvenience. Rather, they willingly endure temporary hardship for lasting health. In the same way, a person who disciplines their desires and adheres to the guidance of Allah, the Exalted, will ultimately attain true spiritual, mental, and physical well-being. This is because the only one who possesses complete, perfect, and timeless knowledge of human nature is Allah, the Exalted. He alone fully understands every dimension of the human being, emotional, psychological, spiritual, and physical. And He alone knows how to bring all these aspects into harmony. People rely heavily on society's knowledge, research, and advice in matters of health, psychology, and personal development. But even the greatest experts are limited by their incomplete experience, restricted perspective, and natural biases. They cannot foresee every situation a person will face in life, nor can they provide solutions for every inner conflict, nor can they guide a person in arranging their priorities in a way that leads to enduring peace. In contrast, Allah the Exalted possesses flawless knowledge, unlimited foresight, and absolute wisdom. Out of His mercy, He conveyed this perfect guidance to humanity through the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. This truth becomes especially clear when one observes the contrast between those who use their blessings according to Islamic teachings and those who do not. Those who follow divine guidance tend to display a more stable inner state, healthier relationships, and more balanced use of their time, wealth, intellect, and emotions. Their lives reflect a sense of order and purpose because they act in accordance with principles that come from Allah, the Exalted, rather than temporary whims or societal trends that constantly shift. On the other hand, those who disregard divine guidance often use their blessings in imbalanced or destructive ways, resulting in anxiety, confusion, or inner conflict, even when they outwardly possess comfort, wealth, or status. Furthermore, even in worldly matters, patients usually do not understand the complex science behind the medicines they are given, yet they follow the doctor's advice out of trust. Remarkably, Allah, the Exalted, does not demand this kind of blind trust from people. Instead, He invites them to reflect, reason, and verify the truth of Islam through personal observation and intellectual contemplation. He encourages people to witness the positive effects of Islamic teachings in their own lives and in the lives of others. He provides clear signs, rational proofs, and practical guidance so that they may adopt Islam with insight, not out of emotion or imitation. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
This verse highlights that Islam is built upon clarity, understanding, and conviction, not blind following. However, to appreciate this insight, a person must approach Islamic teachings with humility, openness, and freedom from prejudice. Only then can they truly perceive the wisdom embedded within divine guidance. Additionally, as Allah, the Exalted, is the sole controller of the spiritual hearts of people, the place where true peace of mind resides, He alone decides who receives tranquility and who remains restless. Chapter 53 and Name, verse 43.
And that it is He who makes one laugh and weep.
This verse shows that every state of inner joy or sorrow ultimately comes from Him. Therefore, it is clear that Allah, the Exalted, grants peace of mind only to those who use the blessings He has given them in the manner He has prescribed. When a person aligns their life with divine guidance, they open the door to tranquility. But when they misuse their blessings, whether time, wealth, mind, or body, the natural consequence is inner disturbance, because they are acting against the very system Allah, the Exalted, designed. In summary, true peace, both in this world and the next, comes from aligning one's desires with the wisdom of Allah, the Exalted. Just as the patient who faithfully follows medical advice regains physical and mental health, the person who faithfully acts upon Islamic teachings attains a harmonious and balanced life, supported by divine insight, protected by divine wisdom, and enriched with divine peace. Chapter 16 and Nahl, verse 97.
Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while he is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter according to the best of what they used to do.
All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and may peace and blessings be upon his final messenger, Muhammad, his noble family and companions.